First of all, welcome. I'm so excited to have you all here today. We're going to have an amazing day filled with learning about herbal medicine and aromatherapy for anxiety and depression. A huge piece, which of course during the past 15 months that anxiety and depression has been a lot higher because of COVID, but also it's a general epidemic has hit our society in a big way. So it's my pleasure to be your instructor and guide today as I walk you through learning. This is going to be like our mini workshop, right? We have 6 over the entire summer. So as you came in, you saw you're more than welcome to sign up for more workshops. We have space. This is our first workshop that we've had in 2 years. So we're like, because of COVID, so we're really like revamping that. We used to have a big longer boot camp where we would have everybody come and stay the weekend, but we're not doing that this year. So this is new for us. So please spread the word as for we're having these mini ones. You're gonna get a little taster of things today. Okay, so first we're gonna be talking about herbal medicine, plant medicine. So these are the herbs that we're gonna be studying today or learning about. Tulsi or holy basil, skullcap, St. John's wort, Valerian, and lemon balm. So just like a little bit about plant medicine in general. So plant medicine has been around for a really long time, right? It's been used by indigenous people, Native Americans, all around the planet. I've traveled myself and gone to different areas of the world to learn about their herbal medicine. So we have a lot of different plants that help us to feel better, right, through healing. So just as a little thing about herbal medicine, there are specific plants that you need to be cautious about, whether you're on specific medications or things. So it's always good to, before you're gonna start a new herbal regime, just to check on the cautions or any contraindications or with your healthcare provider about that. But most herbs, and including most of the ones we're gonna be learning about today, are really safe, don't have a lot of contraindications. If there is something particular, I'll let you know, and it's also in your handbook. Whether that is, most of the time the cautions are for SSRIs, or blood thinners. Those are our two main, or pregnancy, which I don't think anyone is pregnant in the audience at this moment in time, but if you are, or if you know someone that you're going to be recommending some of these herbs, those contraindications are in there as well, okay? So herbal medicine, again, is this lovely plant form that we use, and one thing I really like about herbal medicine is that we can grow it ourselves, right? So I'm going to be showing you the plants today that we grow here, and what's great about these plants is in North Carolina, we can grow so much of our own medicine. It's really easy to grow. And I'm gonna show you things that are really simple for you to start integrating in your own house. And that's the best thing about herbal medicine. When we learn, we can educate our family and friends and community. And that's really the thing that this garden and this farm was created for. Because we really wanted to create a place for the veterans to learn about medicine, to integrate into your lives for that healing, because it's a place that's missing. So, with herbal medicine, you'll see, let's turn to our first herb that we're going to talk about today. And that's going to be on page 9. Okay? So we're going to be talking about Tulsi. So you'll see in each section of your handbook today, there's the common name of the plant. So all plants have a common name, and that can differ. But then there's the Latin name of the plant. And that's really specific to know, because if you're, say for instance, you're going to be buying the plant, or if you want to put it into your garden, it's very, very key that you're using the right plant. Because plants can look very similar. You'll see in our garden that we have Tulsi and peppermint and lemon balm, and they look like really similar if you don't know, especially when they're in their baby form. So if you're going to start incorporating some of that into your own garden, it's really key to get the right plants. And we have lots of plants here. If you need plants, check with us so we can help you start that on your own property. We can give you little seedlings. So those are the 2 first key things. Then throughout the workbook, you'll see there's a therapeutic action. So the therapeutic action is basically the properties that the herbs do in the body. So you're going to see that there's many, many, many different therapeutic actions that a herb has. It's not just like, okay, we're going to be learning about Tulsi and it's for depression. It has a lot more different things that it's used for, and all the herbs are like that. But they have a main category, right? They're like their superstar category that their focus is. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. But you're going to see when you're learning about Tulsi, you're like, wow, look at all the different things that I can use it for. So then that's when you kind of get into more learning about herbs and being able to use them in different ways and different formulas. And then you're going to see a medicinal use. So the medicinal use category is the way that then we can use it. So say all the herbs that we're going to be learning about today are called nervines. And a nervine means it acts on the nervous system, and then it has those therapeutic properties. Then we can use it in a medicinal way on the physical body, the emotional body, and the mental body and spiritual body to make that shift in the system. Okay, so you're going to see that category. And then there's also a dosage section. So this is the recommended dosage, and I'm going to be going through that. And then also, again, the contraindications. So each section in the herbal section of your handbook and also the aromatherapy section that we're going to go through will have that same kind of layout. So that way when you're going back and using your workbook later, you'll be able to see that. Okay? All right, so let's talk about holy basil, Tulsi. And this is the plant here, and I'm going to pass it around. And so you'll be able to see and smell the aroma right away. And what I want you to do is to take a nice handful, and then we'll pass it back around, because we're going to make, your first thing you're going to make is a tincture. And I'm going to talk all about the plant. If you are someone who doesn't want to use alcohol for whatever reason that is, just let us know. And one of our volunteers, Lauren and Tamlin in the back, can help you with the Glycerite aspect. So there's two things we can make. So Tulsi, once you get it, would love you to hold the herb. So let's just wait a second and I'll talk about it. So Tulsi is a very ancient herb used in Hindu medicine a lot. It's a sacred plant to them, very, very sacred. And they'll use it on altars, and they'll use it in ceremonies, and it smells so good. So it's in the basil family. That's why it's called holy basil, and that aspect of the holy property. Okay, it's coming around. So what I'd like you to do first, once you have the plant, is and this is how, so when we're learning about plant medicine, if you can actually meet the plant, right, in its live form, this is where you can connect to the plant, and it helps you with that memory, right? As opposed to what I'm going to be passing around, the dried form, right? In this form, we can still get to learn about the plant, but it's a lot harder for us to connect, right? Because in a live form, the plant is vibrant. It has its properties that it's like, yelling out to us, what it can be used for. So let's just take a nice big whiff of the plant. Oh, it smells so good, right? So Tulsi is one of our aromatic plants and a nervine that we can use, and as a tea, it's a wonderful tea. And there's some that Melissa made back in the back today, because you can tell just by that aroma that it's going to smell and taste delicious. So the therapeutic action, so the main one that we're going to be focusing on today, it is a antidepressant. Can everybody hear me well? Okay, if you can't, just let me know. So it's an antidepressant, and you can see even just by smelling the aroma of Tulsi, it just makes you happy, right? And so when we use this plant, that's what it does to us. It helps to uplift us, helps us balance our mood, and it works on the nervous system. Some of its other properties, which are great, it's also an analgesic. So an analgesic means it helps with pain. So, pain is often connected to anxiety and depression. It's in that kind of pain loop. So it's very common to have those two together. So that's one reason I really like using Tulsi. And at the farm here, we picked growing plants that were geared towards the needs of the veterans. And pain, anxiety, depression, those are huge categories where we know that all the veterans need help and assistance with. So Tulsi fits into a lot of the categories. It's also an antibacterial. So it really helps our body to fight bacteria, viruses. It increases the immune system's ability when we're in times of stress, right? And so anytime we're in a time of stress, our body is affected in many different ways. So what I'd like you to all do, so our first thing we're going to do is going to make a tincture or a glycerite. And in the very beginning of your handbook, it talks you through how to do that. So let's flip back to the beginning, which is on page. So I put this in the very beginning. So we're going to be on page 4. and then the Glycerite will be right after that. So there's a couple different ways we use herbs. Actually, there's many different ways. We can use them as a tincture or a Glycerite. We're on page 4. And also we can make a tea. We can use them as an oil topically. So there's many different formats. So in a tincture form, so what a tincture is you take alcohol, and most of the time you want to use something like we use Everclear here at the farm. Alcohol has no flavor basically. You don't want to use something like, you know, like brandy. We do use that sometimes, but you want something that's really clear and also a really high quantity of, this is 151 proof. So you want something that's going to extract the medicinal property from the plant matter. So we use, and this is really easy to find at your local, you know, liquor store. So first what we're gonna do is we're gonna take your jar. So we're gonna be using these small jars here. And when we're using a plant like Tulsi, we use the leaf for our medicine, okay? So we're gonna take off the leaves and then we're gonna put them into the jar. And we're gonna fill that jar up with matter, with our plant matter. And so when you're filling your jar up, one thing that you want to do is to make sure it's not super, super tight. I always recommend or talk to people, you want to, if you were a little fairy and you were going to take a nap inside that jar, that's how you want it to be. You want it like nice and like airy so that you can have space, not super packed, because what happens if that plant medicine is too packed, then your menstruum or your alcohol or glycerite then can't move its way through, okay? So as you're filling up that jar, I'm gonna continue to talk about the plant. So when we're making a tincture, we're again using that alcohol. It's going to extract the medicinal quality. So you could think of it as like, that's our strongest form of plant medicine, because within that property, it's got everything out of the plant, right? As opposed to if we make a tea, which is still really strong, but a tea doesn't have that same, you know, we have to drink a lot of tea to have the same medicinal quality as a tincture. So I'm gonna let you guys fill that up. And so after you make your tincture, so what's what we're gonna be doing now, and I'll talk you through the process of how long that's going to stay for. So a tincture goes a really long way. One thing I really appreciate about the medicine of tincture is, you know, if you make a large batch, it's not like you're gonna go through it in one day. It's a very strong medicine. And then we also have Glycerite. So Glycerite is just a form of sugar. You can buy Glycerite from like Star West Botanicals is a good resource, and that you can buy it by the gallon. It doesn't go bad necessarily, but you do want to keep it in the refrigerator and cool, which is the same thing you should do for all tinctures as well. So one of the questions was, what's kind of the difference between why would I choose to make a tincture as opposed to the Glycerite, especially if we're talking about using something for depression or anxiety? What would be the choices? So one is, of course, the use for with children. Okay, so with children, we want to use something that we're not giving them alcohol, but also tastes better. And you can also I like to take Glycerites a lot, and I'll kind of like make that combination of Glycerite and alcohol, add some of the glycerin to a tincture to kind of make it taste a little bit better sometimes. So the differences between those two is that a tincture is going to be a lot stronger in the medicinal quality. So you're going to have to use a larger dosage when you're using tinctures. So let's say, for instance, your regular dosage of a tincture is 30 to 60 drops per, like 3 times a day. So that would be double that dosage for a Glycerite for adults. So it doesn't extract the medicinal quality of the plant in the same way. Does that make sense? Does everybody have their jars filled up now? Nice and light, but filled. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to add the tincture, and you want it to cover the plant matter and have no space where the plant matter is sticking above the tincture line. So you have a little, and you can use also, there's a cup here on your stations for measurement, and then you can use your little stick here to push the leaf matter down underneath the alcohol. Okay, so you're gonna fill that up. If you're doing a Glycerite, so our Glycerite, again, is that portion where we're gonna be using the glycerin with the plant matter, but you wanna use a little bit of water because it's, you wanna make the plant matter kind of the glycerin to move through the plant matter. It's really thick, okay? And I put the ratios in your, not the ratios, I put not all herbs are great for making glycerites. You really want to use ones that extract well. So lemon balm and peppermint, which we're going to be talking today about. And you're going to fill, so when you're making glycerite, you fill the jar 75% of the way with glycerin and the rest is water, okay? And then you want to shake it up, and you want to do that anyway. So, and you want to label it. So right now you put your tincture into your container. You want to put the lid on, and then at your little station, there are labels and a pin. So you want to write Tulsi, and then we're going to write what today's date is. And the reason, because tinctures are going to be extracted for, you're going to strain it after 6 weeks, minimum of 6 weeks, okay? And they're going to be stored in a nice dark place. So I'll go over that again as you guys are writing that, okay? So why do we want to be using Tulsi, all right? So we're using Tulsi to help us to be uplifted again in that place of depression. So it's helping with the nervous system. And one of its great other uses is an adaptogen. So an adaptogen is an herb that helps us to adapt to stress. So which is key for anxiety and depression, because when we're in those states, our body is in this like larger place of stress. Our sympathetic system, our sympathetic nervous system is heightened. So that's our flight or fight mode, right? And so that becomes exasperated in times of stress. So Tulsi not only helps us to work with depression, but it helps us to deal with stress. So it's like one of my favorite herbs. I use it all the time and in formulas with vets, and it's one of the reasons why we grow it here at the farm. Okay, so that's one of its key things. So that when you're thinking about, and you know, like I said in the beginning, a lot of herbs have a lot of uses. So what I'd like you to take away from today is that when you talk about the plant, you can remember that one use it's for, or two uses, right? So when you think about Tulsi, anxiety, depression, stress, 3 uses I said, but but those are its main things. So when you're starting to use them in your own house or growing them, then you're able to really identify easily to the plant, okay? So some of the other things that it's really good for is that it helps with headaches. So, you can think of when you have that stress headache, you're like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out. I'm probably dehydrated because I haven't been drinking water. And then you can feel that pressure in the back of your neck. So Tulsi is great for helping with headaches and migraines, especially from that stress component. So I wanted to bring that in because it's very common for that. And it's also there's lots of studies that have been done on herbs, and most of the studies that have been done with Tulsi are on anxiety and depression. So if you're one of those people that really likes to have the scientific data behind a plant, you can go to PubMed, PubMed, and type in the name of the plant, and then like stress, and then the studies will come up. So that's a great way to learn about it. Okay, so have everybody labeled their lovely medicinal tincture or glycerite? Okay, so let's talk about then. So you're gonna take this home and like, what am I gonna do with it, Dr. LuLu? Okay, so one thing, you're gonna store it in a nice dark place because plant matter wants to have no light for its processing. And also when you store it. So this is not the best like post tincture, like you'll see once you processed it, you would wanna be storing it more in an amber bottle or a blue bottle. And you can get these really easily on specialty bottle. You can even find them on Amazon if you're an Amazon shopper. They're really easy to find. So you're gonna take the herb, it's been 6 weeks now, and you've been straining it, and that's why you always put the date on it, right? You're like, okay, it's 6 weeks from now, and you're gonna take a bowl and a strainer, and then you're gonna strain out the liquid from the plant matter, right? And then you're gonna strain it into another jar or bowl. You're gonna compost your remaining matter, and then the leftover liquid is what you're gonna use for your medicine. Super easy. That's why I love tinctures. It's like you just bottle it and bam, you have this great medicine just after 6 weeks. So that's a really easy way. And then, so you'll then relabel it, okay? So you've strained it on that date, then you're gonna put a new date on it, and you're gonna put it in a nice dark place in your medicine cabinet or toolbox for use. And the tinctures can last for a really long time. Another thing I like about the medicine. A glycerite, I max like a year for a glycerite, and you want to store it in the refrigerator for that max use. For a tincture, it could be like 4 years easily. You're probably going to use it before that. But we have medicine that we've made here at the farm since we first started making medicine. And I kind of like, say like it gets better with age. And so that's like the really good stuff because it's still making medicine. Now you don't have to strain it in that first 6-week period. You could let it hang out for a long time, but that's like the minimum amount that you want to let it sit for. Okay, so that's how you make a tincture, and that's basically like Herbal Medicine 101 right there. That's how you can use every single plant form can be made into a tincture. Either we have different forms of the plant, so we'll have a leaf form or a flower form or a root form, and all those can be used for medicine. And glycerites, like I mentioned, not all things are good for glycerites. A root is very challenging for a glycerite because you could think like what has to happen to the herb is that form has to go in, it has to hydrate it. And sugar and water don't really hydrate it and then extract. So you want to really use things that are leafy, right? Because then it's able to extract the matter really well. So for dosing on your tincture, so I put 2 things. So one, let's talk about the tea form. So if you're going to grow Tulsi in your garden, which I recommend because it's so easy, let's say one thing about it is that it will take over. So give it space. Yes, you will see that. It also will come back. So it's a great plant to plant, and then you'll have it again next year, over and over again. So it's wonderful for that. How many of you have a garden at your place? So so this is also a great plant to do in a pot, just on your porch, really easy. Or you can also buy it dried. You don't have to do everything fresh. I didn't mention that. You can do the same thing with dried matter. Okay, so you're gonna buy, let's say you're gonna go to either Star West Botanicals, or you're gonna get some from us, or you're gonna buy Mountain Rose herbs. Those are kind of the main sources. And you would take this same thing and fill it with the dried matter and then add your alcohol. What I recommend with that is always doing a little bit less of the dried matter in the beginning because it's gonna go, right? It's gonna hydrate quickly and then you're gonna have to refill it. So not quite as much as you put in this form. But that's a really great one because you know, say it's in the middle of the winter and you wanna make something and you're like, well, I don't have any plant matter right now. So maybe either you saved it or you're gonna buy some. So you can do both for that. Okay, so when you're using, so there's 2 ways. So you have that dried form of the plant matter or the fresh, and you can make an infusion. So what an infusion is basically, it's a fancy word for making a tea. So you're gonna infuse it for longer. Say when you make a cup of tea, you know, you usually let it steep for, 4 minutes is a usually typical time. But for an infusion, you really wanna let that sit for at least 10 minutes, and I put some of that instructions here. Like you can see, I'm on page 10. So how we're making an infusion for Tulsi. So you can make an infusion from fresh plant matter, or you can also make it from dried plant matter, either one. And you take the herb, and then you're gonna add the water, and you're gonna let it sit for 30 minutes. So that's a lot longer amount of time. And what that's doing is it's extracting all the medicinal quality from the plant into your water. Does that make sense? So it's a lot different than just making like a cup of tea and like, maybe that's your morning routine. We really want to get the medicine out of it because that's the whole point of drinking something medicinal. So I gave the instructions there. And then say you make a big batch. Let's say you make like this much, which is a really great thing to do. You can drink it for a couple days. Up to like 36 hours. You can put it in the refrigerator, especially now during the summer. It's a great time to make an iced tea with the Tulsi. It has that really uplifting and fresh aroma, and the lemon balm, which we're gonna talk about. So those are really good sources for making a fresh tea. So that's what I recommend so that you can drink it throughout the day. Because when it comes to making a tea, an infusion, what happens is if you drink like 1 cup, you're not really gonna have maybe you feel like a little bit, right? But then as you work throughout the day, you're like, well, it kind of wears off because you peed it out. So, you have enough that you can drink more throughout the day. So, and I have those dosages in here, but most of the time what I recommend is drinking like 3 cups at a minimum throughout the day. Right? And so you can either make a larger batch because we're all super busy, right? Make a nice large batch and drink it throughout the day, or make make smaller ones and drink it throughout the day, whichever is great for you. I like to make a big batch. I just do, batching is really easy for me. You could also make ice cubes. So if you want to make a hot tea, you could make some ice cubes and freeze it, and then put them in a drink throughout the day, like add them to your water or something, so you have some of that medicinal quality, especially when it comes to stress. Because, you know, if we're chronic stress, it kind of accumulates over time, right? And so if we are helping our body over the day to help deal with stress, it helps things to be. So listen to yourself. If you do have some digestive issues already and you're going to be taking larger amounts of Tulsi, especially in the tincture form, just, you know, watch out. Like if you're having any maybe like extra gas or bloating or a change in your bowel movements, you might want to just back off a little bit on that. Tulsi is also contraindicated for warfarin for large uses. So if you're taking an anticoagulant, just make sure that you're being like checked with your provider, or using smaller dosages on that, okay? Because it has vitamin K, so it can be a blood thinner. So just be cautious about that. And then, so this last bit on that page on 11 is I gave you some instructions on how to make a Tulsi tea. So that's what I just talked about, how to do that infusion. So again, you could do it from a fresh, or if you are making fresh, you would take, let's just do this here. So what say this was your teapot, you would fill this up with fresh matter. And again, you don't want to use the stems because they just don't have as much of that quality. So I'd fill it up and then just add hot water and steep it for 30 minutes. And there you go, you have your tea. If you're going to be doing it for a dried matter, which I'm going to pass this around here. So this is our dried tea matter. You can take a nice whiff. You can see that we wouldn't use as much, right? Which is why I put in there that amount. So I'll let you, and this is, all of these are from the farm. This is what we process. That one is from last year. Okay, great. So that's Tulsi. So what are the 3 things or 2 things you want to remember about Tulsi? 1, it's for anxiety, and 2, depression, and 3, stress. Great, so you got it. Yay! Okay, let's move and talk about our next one, Skullcap. And so Skullcap is this plant here. So one of the things, it's growing in our garden, but it's not used. We use the flower too, and it's not flowering yet. So I am going to pass it around to let you just take a little piece at your table. But it has these little purple flowers, and so not everything, we're still early in our summer season. Everything is going like crazy because of the water, but it's also, we don't have a lot of the flowers yet, which is one of the reasons why I mentioned how challenging it can be to identify a plant, and that's why. Because in their green, this could look like 8,000 other plants, right? But once it flowers, you're like, okay, I got the feel for it. And of course, you know, I've been working with plant medicine for a long time, so for me, it's a lot easier to ID, because once you start to get to know the plant, you develop a relationship with the plant, and you're like, oh yeah, this is Skullcap. I know exactly what it is. Okay, another great one to grow in your garden. I'm gonna pass this around, just take a little piece. We're not gonna be making a medicine with it, but we're gonna be talking about it. So I want you guys to hold it so that you can learn to ID it. Okay, so Skullcap, when you think about the common name, what does it even sound like? It sounds like something, you know, something that goes over the head. So it's great for headaches right away. It's good in pain formulas. It's good again for stress, for especially that stress-induced headache. So it's a nervine, and remember what a nervine is? It's something that acts on the nervous system to help us relax. So Skullcap is just a wonderful plant to use as a tea or to mix in other formulas. And it has, you can see in the therapeutic actions, it is an anti-spasmodic. So what that means is it reduces spasms, right? So wonderful to bring in, especially for female health, if you have a lot of PMS and uterine cramping, or for anyone, for any type of spasms, like if you have a lot of muscle pain or back pain or headaches, it helps reduce that spasm. You know, you ever like working, maybe even working in the garden, and you've been weeding too much and you've been bending over and you stand back up and you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening in my back? This is a great plant to go to. It's also, again, like I said, a nervine, and it's also a sedative. So a sedative is something that sedates us right? So it helps with sleep. So, you know, part of that anxiety piece, that depression piece, that stress piece is it's hard for us to sleep at night. And I'm going to be teaching a specific workshop all about sleep and energy this summer. So make sure to attend that one if you have sleep issues. So the study was just done. They did some data, and 70 million just Americans have problems with sleep, which is a massive amount, right? So it's really an important category to not only learn about yourself, but to help your family, friends, and community, to help them to deal with sleep issues. And I know that the veteran community has a lot of PTSD in relationship to dreams and things that have happened in the past. So Skullcap is a really great one to bring on. And it's going to help reduce, again, like I said, spasms and soothe the nervous system. So really helping reduce that stress level. It also helps with digestion, because say if you have, you know, when you're really worried about something, you have that digestive upset, you know, like butterflies in your stomach and everything is kind of like, this is the great one to bring on for that, because it'll help just like calm things down and bring that like peace to the digestive system. All right, so for Skullcap, so one thing about the workshop today, we're only going to be making 2 things per like session, but you can do the same exact thing with every plant, unless I say something different. But you could take this plant just like we just did, and you could make a tincture. Super easy. And we had less people come today than we had planned, maybe because of the rain. So if you'd like to do another plant, you can just take another jar off of the table, because we're not going to be using it for anything else, and then you can totally do another one. So if you want to do, we're going to be doing Tulsi and Skullcap. We're not going to have the actual plant matter of St. John's wort or Valerian. They're just not ready yet. But we're also going to be doing lemon balm, one of my favorite plants. So, they're all my favorites. But so if you can do another one with either Skullcap or lemon balm, and so we have more of that plant matter, so you can easily do that. Also, if you want to try making a Glycerite, so if you want to make the Glycerite, use the lemon balm. Because it's got this lemon flavor, and it works great. It's like having like a lemon drop, right? So that's what I would recommend, especially that will give you kind of those 2 parts of medicine. You're like, okay, I made a tincture, and then I made the Glycerite. Okay, so let's talk about the dosing here. So fluid extract. So a fluid extract is slightly different than a tincture. It's where it uses a different kind of menstruum as it takes the plant matter out. The tincture is where we're using the alcohol. The fluid extract uses a combination, and I didn't really put it in here, but if you were buying a fluid extract at the store, it uses the tincture plus Glycerite plus water, so it's not as concentrated. So we have in concentration, when you are buying something at the store, it'll show like this, like 1 to 1. Okay, that means in a tincture form, they used 100% plant matter to 100% alcohol. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. So when you see fluid extract, it will change, and it'll say like 5 to 1 or something like that. So that means it's using a combination of water and glycerin and plant matter, and to make that. Does that make sense? It's a little bit different when you're making them. It's kind of like that next level up. You probably wouldn't be making much of that yourself. You'll be in like a 1-to-1 ratio. But no, if you're going to be making something yourself or buying something like on say at your local co-op, that 1-to-1 ratio is very strong, right? This is the strongest aspect of an herb that we can have. So infusion, again, that's your tea that you would be making. A powder, so that's you're probably not going to be doing a powder yourself. It's a lot more involved, but you could buy the capsule, right? The powdered herb. Tincture, again, is that combination of using the alcohol, and then a dried herb. So I put all those dosages there. So all of those are 3 times a day. So if you're going to be making the tincture of the Skullcap or purchasing it, those are the dosages. I also put a great sleep blend here for you, and I'm going to be talking when we're moving into lemon balm. We're going to make a tea. So you're going to be able to use some of the herbs and make the tea. So I put recipes and formulas throughout all the handbooks today. So when you're starting to make some things on your own, you can buy the herbs in bulk, or you can dry them yourself, depending on your ability or your time. But there's recipes all throughout the whole book, okay? All right, so let's talk about St. John's wort next. Tamlin, could you do me a favor? Could you go and just get a piece of, do you know which one is the St. John's wort? You remember which one? Yes? Yes. It doesn't have a sign.
That's why I have support.
All right, okay, yeah. So if you could grab a piece of that.
Or readers.
Right, yes. Okay, all right, yeah. So, and we'll have time, I think, for us to go out and do some of that today. I'm hoping that I'll be able to go out to the garden with you and show you some of the plants that were out there so you can see how they're growing, but we'll just kind of see what we have time for today. Okay, so St. John's wort, is this one that you have heard about before? It's kind of common, right? So it has been widely studied for depression. It's like one of our, when people say depression, they often think about St. John's wort. So one of the things you might have heard about St. John's wort is that it's contraindicated for a lot of different medications, especially SSRIs. And that's because it is such a strong medicine that when it works on the nervous system and the neurotransmitters and the liver, it can have a change in medications. So if you are taking any SSRIs, I won't go through those contraindications, this is definitely one to use caution with. So let's talk, she's gonna bring the plant back in just a minute. So St. John's wort is this beautiful plant, and it has these little small leaves, and then it makes these beautiful little yellow flowers. And there is a medicinal St. John's wort, and there's also an ornamental St. John's wort. So remember how I said in the beginning, like, you want to know that you're getting a Latin name? The ornamental one has these big flowers. They're like the size of a golf ball. So if you're either out harvesting yourself, or if you're going to grow some, you might see it at the Lowe's or Home Depot or your nursery. You're like, oh, this is St. John's wort, but then it will have the big flowers. Know that that's not it. And then you want to look for the Latin name. So Hypericum perforatum. So the Latin is really important again for that. So why would we use St. John's wort? Of course, it's for depression. Like I said, that's what it's most commonly used for, but it has a lot of other uses. So again, it's an anti-inflammatory. So you can see kind of the theme for nervines. So nervine, again, works on the nervous system. So it's going to help with anxiety, depression, stress. That's all part of our nervous system, right? How we react to our environment. But the other part of our nervous system has a lot to do with pain and muscles, because all those nerves are coming out of the vertebrae, right, to the other parts of our body, including digestion, all the different aspects. And so it's really important to use these nervines to help reduce specific things for the brain, the body, the emotions, and the physical aspect. So anti-inflammatory. It's also, again, an antiviral. Can you see kind of the themes with the nervine categories? They are great synergists. So what a synergist means in the herbal category is that they're like best friends. They're like, oh yeah, I can work well with you because I synergize with the same therapeutic actions. So it's really helpful, because then when you're starting to work into combining herbs, which we're going to do today, you can use ones that will help support each other as a synergist. It can also help things to taste really good because herbs don't always taste good. It's a common thing that they can have a bad flavor. And so if you know herbs that are synergists, like Valerian tastes really yucky. It tastes kind of like stinky feet. That's what people will like. Not that I eat stinky feet, but like you smell like stinky feet. The people say that's what it smells like, or like sweat. And so if you're gonna, you think, oh, I probably don't want to be taking that straight. So when you combine it with other plants that taste good, like lemon balm or Tulsi or Skullcap to help you sleep, so you can see how something is more pleasing. So when we make a blend, if it's more pleasing to us, we're gonna take it, right? We're gonna, oh yeah, I like the way this tastes, I'm gonna use it. So again, it's an antiviral, helping with the immune system. So really good right now in helping with COVID, and as we're gonna move into winter, for helping with the flu season. It's also a sedative. Again, which is the one that we used so far? We've talked about Tulsi and Skullcap and St. John's wort. Which of those other ones was the sedative? Do you remember? Skullcap. Skullcap, right. So we could use Skullcap and St. John's wort as a synergist with each other to help us sleep, especially if we're having a lot of depression and waking up at night, like in times of grief. A lot of people have been having a lot of grief over the past 15 months because a lot of people have passed, right? And so it really helps us to deal with sleep when it comes to that place of that grieving and that heart center. It's also really great for anxiety. Okay, so St. John's wort, the top 3 uses, we have anxiety, depression, and sleep. Okay, so when you're starting to think, and if 3 things is too much, just remember 1. For St. John's wort, I would just say depression is the main one. Okay, so really think about using that in your formulas. And you can see some of the other uses. It's also really great for skin inflammation. So we can use St. John's wort, we can make an oil, and that's one of the things we do with it at the farm. And I personally had a really bad burn. It was a 2nd-degree burn when I lived in Seattle. I was working in this kitchen, like an herbal camp, just like it was like a big workshop, and I was working in the kitchen volunteering, and hot water from the potatoes poured all over my foot. And so it was really bad, and but I only used herbal medicine the entire like healing time, which took about like 2 to 3 months. But St. John's wort helps with the nervous system. You know, when you have an injury and the pain like shoots out from the nervous system like that, like ouch, 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 that's what St. John's wort helps with. So you can use it topically for that as well as internally, and we also use it as homeopathically, which I'm not going to talk about right now, but we have another use we use it for too. So St. John's wort, when you think about it, think about like that aspect of really helping with pain from that nervous system reaction of helping to decrease that system, that message that the nervous system is giving. Okay, so it's great for skin inflammation, and it also is great for myalgia, so muscle pain, that muscle soreness. So you can use it, as you can see, a lot of different actions for plants. Okay, let's talk about the precautions and the contraindications, because I know that is a big topic I kind of mentioned. So St. John's wort should be used with care if you're using tricyclics and SSRIs. So this is one you really want to check with your primary care provider about before starting, or check in with me or something, because it, like I said, it can affect the actual way that your SSRIs or your tricyclic antidepressants work in the system. That's why it's contraindicated. It also works on the liver. So we have a specific enzyme, the cytochrome P450 metabolites in the liver. And so if you're taking a medication that works on that particular thing, the cytochrome P450 metabolites, it's contraindicated for St. John's wort. So those are the 2 things that you want to think about. And if not, otherwise you're pretty much free to use it in that way. Okay, I think they're still trying to figure out which one is the plant. So we used to have a lot of it at the farm, and then it took over, so we took it out. So now we've just replanted it this season. It needs a lot of space, so if you are going to plant it in your garden, it likes to spread. And so that's probably why they can't find it, because it's only 2 small plants and it doesn't have a sign. So it's right in front of the Tulsi.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about how we can use it. So again, you can use it as an infusion. Oh, one thing, let me go back and before I forget. Okay, so when the flowers, the actual like flower itself, and the stem of the plant, when we use it to make medicine, it's red. So it's a specific quality of the plant, and I'll bring out a tincture and show you. So a lot of times when we'll make a tincture, like when we made this one here, it will be green, right? Because of the plant, it's got the properties of the plant matter and the photosynthesis. But when we use other plant matter, like if we're gonna use a root, most of the time it's brown, or like turmeric, right? It'll be yellow. But when we use St. John's wort, and I can't think of the name, I'll think of it in a minute, the actual property of the flower, it's red. So it'll make all the tincture is red. It's really fascinating, so I love it in that way. So in infusion, we're gonna use, the parts of the plant we use are the leaf and the flower. We don't use the stem. Most of the stuff is like that. Everything that we're gonna be doing today, except for the valerian, is the root. And I'll talk about how we harvest it. Did you find it?
I mean, this is our best It was not labeled, I believe it was just harvested. Are we right?
This is it! Yay, good job! That was your test. Right, that was your test. Okay, so I'll let you guys pass this around. Yay! Yeah, so you can see, it's like a little baby form. It doesn't really have, so let's just, this is how we get to know the plant. So like we can smell the plant. Like, okay, it has there's probably like hardly any aroma. It doesn't have a very aromatic use. We don't use it for essential oils.
Yes.
And then you can see like it's very small, so it's gonna make little small flowers. So this is the, it's hard to ID it, like we just had our experiment. So that's one thing, if you are gonna have plants in your garden, to label them with a good sign, so just like we try to do here. And so yeah, this is the same John's wort. And what, a lot of times when I'm thinking about the properties of a plant, when I'm checking out the leaf or the flower, I'm like, okay, well, it's very soft. What would I think it would be used for? Just kind of like think about some things to yourself. But again, what are some of the things we said we would use St. John's wort for? Depression. Number one, depression. This is your depression. Antidepressive, right? Antidepressant. And I said really good for the nervous system, especially with pain. So those are the two things. And of course, you're not going to remember everything. You're going to go back. But if you think about one thing, that's a really good one. Okay. So I put on here a natural remedy to help with depression. So a formula you can make. St. John's wort and cardamom. So cardamom is just something you can buy at the store. Does everybody know that spice, cardamom? Yes. It kind of has this, it's like sweet, spicy. It has a very, very, very different taste to it. I used to work at this bakery that Melissa knows, and they made these amazing croissant, like cinnamon rolls with cardamom and sugar. It's like to die for. The best thing on the planet. But we don't have any of those right now. Sorry. Right, salivating. But cardamom is also used as an herb. So a lot of the culinary herbs cross over, right, into our medicinal field. So we use cardamom in that way, and it's also used in essential oil too, so in essential oil formulas. So it will really help you feel energized and help again with that depression. So we can use the St. John's wort. Do you know if you ever feel depressed and you don't want to get out of bed, right? You're like, I'm just so tired. So when we can make a formula using cardamom and St. John's wort, it will help energize our system, kind of help uplift us and move through that depression. So super easy. Take 1 teaspoon of cardamom powder, so that in your spice jar. And again, you can get the resources. I'll write them down on here for you, because you're not going to be able to buy everything, of course, or grow everything. So mountain rose herbs. That's one resource for buying. So from here you can buy herbs, you can buy oils, you can buy anything you need to make medicine. And same with the other one is Star West Botanicals. Mountain Rose only is for consumer and is all retail. But Star West Botanicals does wholesale and retail, so for some way you can get, if you have a business or something, you can get wholesale prices from Star West Botanicals. You always want to try to get something organic, right? If you can, that's when you want to do it, because especially things are heavily sprayed, but not everything can come in organic format. But yeah, I would recommend buying, the reason I'm putting this up here now is buying cardamom when you just get it off the shelf, like let's say your local grocery store, it's not going to have the same potency as if you're getting one that's used like specifically, they're making it for medicine, right? So it's going to be a lot higher quantity. You can still use it a culinary way too. Okay, so 1 teaspoon of cardamom powder, and I'm on page 15 in case you're wondering where we are. And then 1 teaspoon of St. John's wort. So you would take the dried form of the flower and the leaf is what we use. So you've either made it yourself or bought it in that form. And then you're going to add those together and you let steep for 5 minutes. So that's an infusion. And you can let it, again, steep longer. Cardamom is pretty spicy, so if you let it steep for a long period of time, it might be, spicy. I like to add a little bit of honey for that little sweetener, or whatever your honey, like stevia, or you could add a little like alternative milk, like almond milk or something, to kind of have that nice milky flavor. And then drink this remedy daily to treat depression. So this is a really great tea you can make, super easy. And then I also put another formula here for you, a natural remedy for OCD. So that's really common to have OCD when that anxiety picture comes in. It's right. It's like those ruminating thoughts, that anxiety. You want to check everything, right? Make sure, like, okay, did I do that? Like me this morning, did I lock the cat in the closet? So I had to go back in and like check to make sure, because it happens. He like runs in and then runs back out. So when you're in that place, not that I was anxious this morning, but you know, I was hurrying to get out of the house and I wanted to make sure, so I had to go back in because I didn't want to think about it like on the whole drive. So if you have a lot of that OCD, this formula can really help. So we have some passion flower in the garden now. This is our first year we've had passion flower, and I'll make sure that I point it out to you. So it's really easy to grow. It needs a trellis. It's on the trellis in the garden, and it's a beautiful purple flower. And so we use that flower for our medicine. So you can buy it again, and if you're not making it yourself, you can buy it. But this formula is passiflora or passion flower. That's what that is. The passiflora is kind of like the common name too, but that's passion flower. So you make the combination of passion flower and St. John's wort together. So passion flower relaxes your mind and alleviates many of the symptoms of OCD. So it really helps to take like the edge off, right? And then also St. John's wort helps with obsessive thoughts. So those two together can really, really make a great formula. So 1 teaspoon of the dried passion flower, and then 1 teaspoon of St. John's wort to a cup of tea. Steep for 5 minutes. Really easy. So one thing that I really like you to take away from today is how easy it is to make tea, right? And so, you know, even now, and we're in the hot season, you can still make something hot and make it into an iced tea like Melissa did, you know, and that's a really good way to have your daily medicine, or, you know, I'll make a nice thing with iced tea and just drink it throughout the day to just help my body through the whole day. So that is our St. John's wort. Okay, awesome. Okay, our next one is Valerian. So it's not flowering right now. The Valerian flowers in the early spring and then the fall. It's actually a 2-season plant harvest. But we use the root. You can use the flower, but it's really, really important that you use, like, the root is stronger. Remember, this is the one I was saying kind of is stinky, but in a good way. We love you. So I'll have you take a little piece and pass it around so you can see the difference in this plant. It is a huge difference in anything that we've seen. And it has big white and pink flowers. Like, so it'll be the plant will be like down on the surface, and then these big like stalks will shoot up and have these balls of white and purple flowers at the top, or umbels. And so right now we're not harvesting it. And what I recommend, a lot of plants, when you first plant them, if you're going to be using the root, you don't want to harvest them the first year, because you can think about, like, it hasn't really established, right? So this we have plants that we have had here since we first started the medicinal garden in 2015, and so their roots are really good, right? They're strong. Also, if you take the whole root of the plant, it might not come back. So you don't want to kill the entire plant. This is another plant. All the plants I'm talking about here today are all plants that will come back every year. Yay! Right? You know, so we don't have to grow them over and over again, or plant them over and over again. That was another really kind of like big thing we wanted to have at the farm, and we're moving into, is really having things that will come back on their own all over the farm. So you spread their little seeds, but also as a way for us to help reduce the cost of the farm. We're always conscious about that, so that's important. So what does this plant smell like to you? Do you smell anything from the leaf? Anything? It doesn't have very much aroma, does it? Maybe a little bitter.
Lettuce.
Slightly like lettuce. Yeah, it's very like, yeah, it has a kind of like bitter lettuce smell aroma to it. So, and it looks different, right? Does this leaf look different than the other leaves that we've, like if you take the Tulsi leaf, if you have any on your, or even the Skullcap leaf. And what did I do? Oh, these ones. So they do look different. But it might be hard for you to ID that, right? If I said to you, okay, what's this leaf? You might say, I'm not sure, Dr. LuLu. But it does look different. Look at the, like, you can see how it shoots out on the sides, and there's different names for all of the leaves, so I'm not gonna go into that. But you can see the difference, right, in the leaf pattern. And so when you're looking out in your garden, that can help you with the ID of plants. Once you start to really get to know, if you're into the botany, then you can dive into it way, way more. Okay, so Valerian, when I want you to think, what I want you to think about when it comes to Valerian is, again, sleep is key. So we talked about St. John's wort is really helping with sleep and depression, and Skullcap. So again, Valerian is going to be the same nervine qualities. It's going to help with the body as an antispasmodic, help with the muscle pain. It's going to help as an analgesic. An analgesic, again, is to help with reduce pain. And it's going to help as a nervine, so it's going to help with depression and anxiety. So again, you can use this formula in calming formulas if you're going to make something yourself to help the body to relax. If you can, but Valerian a lot of times is used in sleep formulas. It's a huge sedative. So if you're having a lot of problems sleeping because you're anxious, this is a great formula. It does, like I said, it has a strange kind of aroma, so you want to mix it with some other ones. And we use the root. And then also is going to help with insomnia, stress, and body tension. So 3 things: stress, insomnia, and body tension, right? So reducing that pain and inflammation. Not really like that pain cycle. It's not an anti-inflammatory. It reduces the cycle of when you have muscle pain. It helps the body to relax, like magnesium. It helps the muscles to relax. So it's not like it doesn't break the pain cycle. It just helps the body to relax. Okay, so for Valerian, you can use, I put your dosing here. So an infusion, remember the infusion is where we're gonna make the tea. And so that can be 4 to 6 tablespoons. And that dosage is dried, not fresh. And this is, again, you might want to make a note on here that it's the root. I didn't put that on this page, so I would put like under botanical name, like parts used, put root. The powder, if you're buying it in a powder form, and then the fluid extract. Tincture, 3 mils to 5 mils. So 1 milliliter is 30 drops. So you'll see that in different formulas. Like you'll see I kind of like interchanged them in here or made it in parentheses. So when you are taking a tincture or you're making one yourself, let's just talk about that so you know, because this is a place that can be confusing. So here in your swag bag, this is the immune booster that we make at the farm. And 1 dropper full, so 1 dropper full is 30 drops, which is 1 mil, okay? So you would fill it up and then you could count your drops or just kind of take it, all right? So 30 to 60 drops. Sometimes the droppers don't always like pull up that particular amount. So when it says here 3 mils, that's a lot, right? So that's because this is a strong plant, but you're using it to really, especially with sleep, really helping your body to sleep. And then an essential oil. So you can also, sometimes some of the herbs in here, we can use it as essential oil. It does not smell the best, but you can use it in combination with other things, but it helps the body, again, relax. And I have some recipes in here for baths. And essential oils and herbs are great to add to baths for muscle pain and helping reduce stress in the body. Okay, and then I also added a wonderful sleep blend here for you. So this is 1 ounce of Valerian. So Valerian, again, would be the root. Does everybody know what hops is? Probably heard of that one. It's what we make beer from. So we do have some. Is it blooming, Truett?
It's not blooming, but there are 4 that are.
Okay, well I'll show you the hops when we do a little tour out there. But it has like little you probably know what the image. It's like a little flower. I can't describe exactly what it looks like, but you probably would know. So hops you can buy with those resources I told you, Mountain Rose Herbs or Star West Botanicals. It's kind of challenging to grow it on your own. We've had some challenges here at the farm. It might be our environment. I don't know if it likes the wetness, but some people have success. We're gonna eventually have success one day. And then Skullcap, 1 ounce of the Skullcap, and then the passion flower. So this is a great little recipe that you can do for helping restful sleep. And you mix those together, you make a standard infusion, and then use 3 to 4, oh, there's a little error there. That should say 3 to 4 tablespoons of the infusion right there where it says use 3 to 4. Just make tablespoon right there. 5 drops of the extract or 10 to 20 drops of the tincture. So the same formula here that I made for you, you could do, you could make a tincture form with it. Okay, those same things. And when it says 1 ounce, we often say in herbal medicine as a 1 part ratio. So it's like 1 to 1. So you're using 1 part of each plant. So you're like, okay, 1 part of this or 2 parts of that. So that's a common thing that you'll hear. So if you're going to make a tincture, it's super easy. You would fill this jar and just do 1 part of each herb. Okay, so that's another way that you can do it. When you use a, when you're making a decoction, so this is a different thing. So a decoction is what we use for root. So if you're going to make a tea, and instead of an infusion, we make a decoction. So we're decocting the medicinal matter into the water, and that's used for root because it has to go longer. So that's really that like 30 minutes of steeping. And I put that in the beginning of your workbook under herbal medicine. It's right in there, so you'll be able to go back and see that. So my point there is that if you're going to make this tea with the valerian, which is the root, the hops, which is the little flower, the skullcap, and the passion flower, those are kind of different parts of the plant. You might have to steep it longer because you want to get that medicinal property out of the plant matter. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, our next plant is lemon balm. So we have this one growing at the farm too, of course. I'm going to take a little bit, and then so this is one of the ones if you want to do your the second container from your partner that couldn't make it today, you will borrow their jar, and you can either make a tincture or you can do the glycerite. And remember, I mentioned that this is a great one for glycerite. So if you want to do that, you're more than welcome to make another one. We'll have to get more plants most likely, but maybe not. We'll just see. Okay, so let's get that passed around. And I'm going to start talking about it while it's being passed around, and then we'll investigate it. So lemon balm is very uplifting. You can think when you smell lemon, it brings that kind of like freshness to the room, right? That like really yummy aroma, and that's what lemon balm does. It's the Latin name is Melissa officinalis, and we use it as a herb and also as an essential oil too. It's used in both formats. And you can, most of the plants that are aromatic, meaning that they have a strong aroma, we use as an essential oil. We are going to be studying essential oils in the second half today, but we're not going to be making like diffusing or extracting, making our own essential oil. It's a very like labor-intensive process, and we don't have the equipment. But we're going to talk about other uses because you can buy them in that way. Okay, does everybody have a piece? It's still passing around, I think. Okay, so lemon balm. Again, once you have your piece in front of you, you can smell the deliciousness of it. I love it. And again, you can use this straight off of your garden. You can just make a plant. And again, if you want any little plants to bring home to your garden today, just let us know. We can give you a little root to take with you because we have a lot. So it's a nervous system tonic and relaxant. So again, when you're thinking about this plant, what I want you to remember is that it's uplifting, right? That lemon is in the name of the plant, lemon balm. It's going to help uplift you out of that place of depression. And it's also a sedative, and we learned about sedatives with Skullcap and Valerian. So this can be wonderful in a calming formula or in a sleep formula. So lots of different herbs. Again, remember that word synergizer. They can be used as a synergist with other plants. And it's a mild analgesic, so it does help with pain, but not as intense as some of the other ones we talked about today. And it's an antispasmodic. It will help with, again, muscle pain. You could use it with the Skullcap for headaches, or you could use it with the Valerian, really to helping to reduce any muscle pain or things that you were having there. So lemon balm has a long history of being used for like frayed nerves. And what I mean by that is, when you can think about that chronic stress and like you're just like, everything around you makes you more stressed. That's like that frayed kind of reaction. And also under deep exhaustion. So we'll use it a lot for chronic fatigue when you're trying to really get out of that state where you're under a lot of fatigue and exhaustion due to stress. And it's also been again, will help with sleep. Really great combination. And remember how I said valerian doesn't taste the best? So what I recommend is doing a combination of valerian and lemon balm, because then it will really make it taste super lemony and yummy. It's also really good for the immune system. So if you feel something starting to come on, then you can use the lemon balm as a way to fight off a bacteria or virus.
Got it. So how much water and how much glycerine?
Okay, so it's about 75% glycerin to 25-30% water. So one thing you can do that is kind of easier is to mix it up in your cup that you have on your station and then pour it in, because it doesn't always mix as great when you're not doing that, but you can do either one. So you would pour it in here and then mix it together and then pour it over your herb. For the Glycerite, a lot of times you'll have to kind of add some more later, and I do that with most of them anyway.
You can do it.
One thing about making your tinctures is it's good to and Glycerites, good to check on them. So especially after the first couple days to see if they need more liquid, because it's absorbed, right? But also it helps you to add your intention into your medicine. You're like, okay, I'm making this Skullcap, and what am I going to be using it for? Maybe I really need it to help with my stress headaches. So every time you're checking it out, you're shaking it up, you're like, this is going to so help me with my headaches. This is going to so help me with my headaches. This is going to help me de-stress. Whatever you're needing, this is going to help me with my sleep. You know, and a lot of times I'll write that straight on my label. This is for sleep, right? And so if you're, it's kind of like you, I don't, Mario, what's his name? Mario Cusi? No, I'll think of his name. Anyway, he did the experiments with water, and so he would put the name like love on a label and put it on water, and then he would take the actual molecule and look at it under a microscope and see how the water changed with different words. And so you can look him up, and I'll think of his name in a minute. So when you actually put something on a container for your intention, it completely changes the vibration of the medicine, and that's been highly studied. So you know, that's, if you want to write on your stuff, go ahead. Okay, great. So the next thing we're going to be talking about, we're going to make a tea blend. Okay, so you're making that. Our next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a tea blend. So we have 4 dried teas here. And we're going to send down 1 each row here. I think that, where'd that dried Tulsi go? Is it back in the back somewhere? Anyway, oh, here it is. We're going to send these down. And this is where you might want to work with your partner. So what, these are 4 herbs, and I also added lavender in there in case you wanted to use it. We didn't talk as much about lavender, but you probably know that lavender is very commonly used for relaxation. So, I'll put these here. What we're going to do is you're going to be creative. You get to make your own tea, or you get to make a single tea. And so, we have maybe the volunteer, maybe Lauren and Tamara, could you help pass out some bowls and some measure, like spoons and stuff to help measure?
Some workspace here.
Yeah, you could, yeah, workspace. So how do you, let's talk about like what you're gonna do when you're making tea. So first you could, of course, use the single tea, right? So I'm passing around Tulsi. So if you want to make a Tulsi plain tea, right? So this is going to be doing what? Helping us deal with stress, right? Anti-depressant, anxiety. Skullcap, we talked about using it for sleep, right? And St. John's wort, we don't have any of that tea, sorry. Or Valerian. But Valerian, so Tulsi, Skullcap, and lemon balm. Lemon balm is going to be super uplifting. And then I also put in some lavender in case you wanted to do that. So what I recommend and what I would love for you to do is to make a little tea blend, okay? So pick like at the most 3 or 2 to 3 herbs out of those ones I'm sending around, and then you're going to take a little bit of each one, and let's use a 1-to-1 ratio. 1 part of plant matter to 1 part of plant matter, unless you're going to use lavender, and then I want you to use like a small amount because it has a really like aromatic flavor. So let's say for instance that Kevin's he's like, I really want to make a Tulsi lemon balm tea. So he's gonna take his bowl He's gonna take a scoop. He's gonna use 1 scoop of lemon balm and 1 scoop of the Tulsi and combine them together. And then he's gonna put them in his tea bag. And then he's gonna label it, okay? And this is gonna be his tea that he can make at home. Does that make sense? So how do you choose, right? So choose, either you can look back in your workbook and look up some of the qualities, or something. You can also, like I said, if you wanna make just one, you're like, I just wanna take this one plant. I'm totally fine with that. And what kind of scoops did you everybody get? Small scoops or big scoops? Let's use some of these bigger ones.
You want to use bigger?
Yeah, let's use bigger ones. Let's use like these size ones, I think.
Instead of the spoon.
Yeah, I think that's probably, yeah. And so when you're making a tea yourself, a combination, you can use measuring cups just like this, but you can also, it's really the best thing to do is to use a scale, right, where you're weighing stuff, so you can be accurate, because all dried plant matter weighs a different amount. But you know, we're not being that scientific today. We're just kind of, you know, we're making some, and this is fine if you use this format. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna decide, number 1, decide which tea or dried plant matter tea you want to use, 1 or 2 or 3 at the most, and then you're going to take a scoop of that, write it down on your notebook. I'm making a tea for sleep, or I'm making a tea for, maybe this is your anti-anxiety tea, or maybe this is your stress tea. Okay, so write that down. You're gonna put the date, and then you're gonna write down what you put in it. So I'm gonna take 2 scoops of Tulsi, ding, and I'm gonna take 2 scoops of lemon balm, and then you're going to label it and date it. Does that make sense? Then if you want to add a little lavender in there, this is like your bonus herb. We're going to talk about lavender as an essential oil. Just add a little bit. Like I would say, like, you know, just as a teaspoon at the most, because it is very flavorful, and it will make it kind of, you know, taste like flowers, which is okay. But I use lavender a lot in blends, but it can be a lot. So as the lavender is being passed around, please smell it, even if you're not going to use it, because we grow it here at the farm, and it's just amazing. It smells so good. So yeah, please do that. Great. Yeah, so then there's also, we can pass this around for you to use. This is an amazing tool that I recommend that you get. So it's a funnel, and it has a big hole, so then you can put this over your bag and dump your stuff through. That way it doesn't go everywhere. So that's a really inexpensive little tool you can get, you know, on Amazon or something like that. Yeah, so teas are a great way for you to start really learning about herbal medicine. They're also great gifts. So, you know, you can like, oh, look at this great little tea blend that I make that I'm using, and then you have a friend who needs help. You make it.
That over to you.
I love it.
Ta-da! And then make sure you make your label, date it, name it, and for dosing, okay, so this is a dried herb, and so it's 1 tablespoon of dried herb per 8 ounces of hot water. Okay, so you want to write that on your label, maybe like 1 tablespoon to 1 cup of water, 1-to-1 ratio. The more simple that you can keep things when it comes to herbal medicine, the easier it will be. So 1-to-1 is a great thing to remember. Of course, as you're getting deeper into learning, you can spruce it up a little bit. So one of my favorite things to do is to make, of course, tinctures, but I love to make tea blends for people because, you know, it's a really lightweight thing you can ship to a friend or give to a neighbor, or just to start really diving deep into learning about herbs. It's so fun. You know, if you like to cook in the kitchen or, you know, experiment, this is a really great way to dive in. Just have fun with it. You know, you don't have to make a blend. But when you do, like, remember I mentioned that word synergizer, the plants actually love to work together. And you know, when you think about a garden, like how marigolds and tomato plants like to grow next to each other, or basil and tomato, it's the same thing with herbs. one herb really loves to be, it's like their best friends. And when you know, the BFF of this plant, when you put them in the same bag together, you're like, yes, I can finally help you work together. So as you start learning about herbal medicine, either just in this class or you're coming to the whole summer series, you'll really start to develop a relationship with how the plants work together, which is one of my goals to help you with this summer. Okay, great. So, as everybody's wrapping up making their tea, the next thing we're gonna do, I'll do a short little tour in the garden, introducing you to the plants, and then we're gonna have a break, so you'll be able to go to the restroom, have some great snacks, drink some infused water, and then we will return to our next half of the class, which is gonna be all about essential oils. So I'd love for you to kind of just keep your little area like clean and maybe put things in your bag if you're done with them, just so we can keep things under wraps, so to speak. Also, if you want to come up and look at any of the books, I have some herbal books and essential oil books up on the table, and then also I have my book, which is just published. So if you want, yay! So if you want to take a look at my book and also ordering it, there's a way to order it in your bag, but you can check out my book as well. Okay? So let's wrap things up and then let's go out to the garden. Okay, everybody, we're going to get started on part 2 of our class today. So again, welcome back from your break. Did everybody enjoy the tour of the medicinal garden?
Yes, thank you.
Meeting the plants in another way. So again, we're going to be talking about anxiety and depression, and specifically aromatherapy for anxiety and depression. And we're going to be covering, I broke everything down today into 5 things, so that way it's going to be easy for you to go home and start using. And then each week, or well, not every other week anyway, each session we'll learn 5 more. Okay, so this we're going to be talking about Tulsi as an aromatherapy oil, bergamot, lavender, frankincense, and wild orange. Those are going to be the 5 main ones we're going to be covering today. And you have a second little handout that goes with that, and this one is essential oils for emotional balance. Okay, and so first I'm going to talk about what is aromatherapy. Right? Has everybody kind of like heard about aromatherapy or the word, right? So aromatherapy uses essential oils in a way to access our limbic system. So when we use aromatherapy, it can go straight into our body through the brain, right? And it activates different things really quickly because it's an aroma. You know, you might remember, you know, when you smell something, you have an association to it, right? Like maybe you smell, I don't know, apple pie, and it reminds you of your grandmother, or maybe you smell rose and it reminds you of your best friend. Whatever, like scents have a huge way where they connect to our memory. So when we use aromatherapy, it actually helps us to unlock the door to emotions in a very easy way. And then we can also use them in many different ways for the physical body, for emotional pain or physical pain. And so they're a really great, one thing I really like about essential oils is they're so easy to use. They're easy to use in many different applications. There's some we use orally, but most of them are used topically. We're going to learn how to make an oil today, a roll-on, super easy. We're going to learn how to make a spray. That's another great thing you can use in your, and they're wonderful because you can use them, like we made the hand sanitizer for everyone. There's one on your table, and you can take one home with you today. And so what's great about that is that this took us, just a few minutes to make, and then you're making something on your own, you're putting your intention in it, and essential oils are just so fabulous to start using into your everyday life. So let's, the first section here in your handout on page 3, you really see kind of like the history behind aromatherapy. Aromatherapy was first established, there was a scientist, and he was working in his lab, feverishly, of course, as all scientists do, trying to discover the next thing. And he had a really bad burn. Again, back to another burn story, that's funny. But he had a really bad burn, and he was like, what should I do? And he had actually a vat of lavender essential oil in his lab, so he stuck his hand down there and he realized how amazing the power of the essential oil was for healing the burn. So that was kind of like, he's like the father of like getting aromatherapy really established in that aspect. And I can't remember what year that was, but it's been a long time. And so we can use essential oils to not only help us to reach deeper to a place of trauma, especially when it comes to anxiety and depression. It helps us to deal with them, because when we're using plant medicine, it's more kind of like this internal use, right? We're using, and it's going into all of our cells and really activating from that standpoint. But when we're using essential oils, they're a great combination with herbal medicine because they access our nervous system in a different way. It's through this, right into the brain, through the vertebral column and out into our nervous system. And it's immediate effect, right? You can, if you were taking like the Tulsi tincture that we made earlier today, you might feel some immediate effect, but some herbs take a long time to develop, right? To get into the system and where you feel their use. But when we're using aromatherapy, we can immediately have effects as it goes straight into our body through our aroma, through our nose, and also through our mouth, but mainly through our nose. And we have many different formats that we can use. We can use them in a bath. We can use them in a diffuser, like I have a diffuser going up here today. So it's, they're great ways that we can access, help our environment, the immune system, the nervous system, the digestive system. So many different ways. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about safety for essential oils, and that's on page 4. So essential oils are really concentrated, right? So in this bottle here, it's a concentrated oil, and a lot of plant matter has to come to make this one bottle. Like say for instance, rose essential oil, which is a very costly essential oil, takes thousands of rose petals to even make one bottle. So when you think about the concentration of the plant matter, it's very intense, and you want to use safety, especially when it comes to using them on yourself, like topically, and or especially with children. Keep them out, and with all medicine, but especially with essential oils, because if they drank, this whole bottle, they could become very ill because of the concentration. So that's really key. And then essential oils can be used internally, but only specific ones, and then in small dilute amounts. So you want to make sure you're checking to see, is this an oil I can use internally? Like lemon essential oil, for instance, we could use in water, but over a very diluted water amount, not just like 1 drop to 1 glass of water. It's too much for our system to intake. Also, essential oils can cause skin irritation when used topically. So you want to make sure, I always recommend if you are doing that, like don't use them neat. So neat means they're without a carrier oil. So if I was just going to take this bottle and put 1 drop in my hands, apply it, and then like rub it on my skin, so that's neat. So you always want to use something with a carrier oil when you're going to apply them topically, so that way they don't irritate the skin. There's also something called a patch test. So if you have very fair skin like myself, I'm very sensitive to this citrus family and other really kind of like spicy essential oils. So a patch test, you would put a drop on the crook of your arm here, and you could either place a Band-Aid or just leave it open, and then you want to leave that on for 12 to 24 hours. Then if you have no sensitivity, like for me, if I use cinnamon essential oil, I'll just break out. So I want to make sure that it's an oil I'm using that's okay. So a patch test is recommended if you have skin sensitivity. If you usually don't, you don't probably need to test every oil, but if you already know you have sensitive skin, especially fair skin, it's good to test. Also, some essential oils are photosensitive, which means when you use them, like bergamot essential oil, which we're going to be talking about today, when you go out in the sun, it can make you more sensitive. You can get a sunburn. So you want to make sure that if you are using a specific oil, like, hey, this is going to make me a lot more sensitive to the sun. I'm going to be working outside today. And that's going to be in the same format. Those contraindications and those cautions are going to be through your notebook today. So I talked about all those things here, this skin sensitivities and that safety. And then also you can repeat the same thing if you need to with a specific oil or an oil blend. And another thing you want to use caution is with pregnancy, many different herbs, but also essential oils. You always want to use caution because, when someone's pregnant, they have a lot of different hormones and different sensitivities that can then affect the baby down the line. I also put some other things here. So epilepsy and high blood pressure should also be taken in with caution. So those are kind of the main things that you're looking at. The reason with high blood pressure is we don't want to have a huge spike or a downward spike of blood pressure. So that's why that's there. And methods of use. So again, you always want to make sure that you're keeping your essential oils in a dark bottle. And we're going to be doing that today when we're making things. And that's the same pretty much for all medicine, but essential oils especially, because they are very photosensitive themselves to the light and will degrade. Okay, so if you make something, you want to make sure it's in a dark bottle. And keep them out of direct sunlight. So if you're going to store them on your shelf, don't put them in a beautiful sunny place. Keep them out. And then there's 3 kind of methods that I put here for you to use, and we're going to be working on some today. So a massage oil, so it's a dilution of 2 to 1/2 dilution. So you use 2 to a 15 drop essential oil. So basically you're going to use 15 drops. Sorry, it's kind of weird how it's written on there. I'll explain it better. It's 15 drops to a bottle of, like, so if we're going to be using, and we're going to walk through this, I'm just kind of mentioning some things in the beginning. 15 drops to this one container. Okay, so it's a 15 to a 2% dilution ratio. So you don't want to have, you wouldn't want to have, 100 drops in this bottle. It would be too concentrated. Okay, and then carrier oils. There's many different carrier oils that you can use for making blends. We use jojoba at the farm. It's really easy to come by, and it's organic. The source for here is Jojoba Care, H-O-B-A, Jojoba Care. Jojoba, like jojoba, Jojoba Care. And there's lots of different oils that you can use. So you could use almond oil or fractionated coconut oil. And these are the carrier oils that you would combine with your essential oils. So there's many different ones. I suggest finding one that you really like. I like jojoba because it easily takes in the essential oils and makes them easily to use. Does that make sense? Like sometimes they don't blend well, and you could think about if you're, not that this is an oil, but if you're blending an essential oil with something, you want it to meld together and interact in a good way. So some oils I find that just don't do that as well as jojoba oil does, but there's lots of different ones you could buy at the store. Just make sure you're getting something organic as a carrier oil, especially if you're putting it on your skin. So bath, so you're going to blend essential oils with 1 to 2 tablespoons of the carrier oil. So you take whatever carrier oil you're using, you add 5 to 7 drops of the essential oil and then add it to a bath. And you can do that with a foot bath or a whole bath. It's great if you can do that while you're in the water, but you can also do it after. There are specific oils that you want to make sure you're careful when putting into a bath, like peppermint or eucalyptus, some things that could be too stimulating to your special parts, okay? So just be careful there. Yeah, so use sensitivity, you want to use relaxing oils that can be helpful. Okay, and then for inhalation, so you can use it on a pillow, you can rub it in your hands, you can make a diffuser. We're going to do that today. So 2 to 3 drops, like lavender is a great one we're going to discuss, and you met that plant, we'll meet it a little bit too. Lavender is great. You've probably heard about it for use for relaxation. It's been widely used for that. And adding it to your pillow before sleep can be very helpful. So those are some main uses that we're going to be talking about today in a way to use the essential oils. Okay, next one, page 6. So this is kind of like the summary about how we can use essential oils in general to help with emotional balance. So again, we're talking about stress, anxiety, worry, depression. These are all ways, and we know that we live in a very fast-paced world. Everything around us is moving at a specific speed, and sometimes it's hard for us to slow down, right? To take a deep breath, to relax, and essential oils are that great gateway for us to help with that. And we're going to be talking again, so we learned about holy basil as an herb, right? Do you remember some of the things that we used it for? Stress! Exactly. And so I'm going to be talking about, again, lots of uses today for the essential oils, but write down 3 main things that will help you remember, right? And we're going to use those same things most of the time for essential oils, but sometimes they'll be a little bit different. So I'm going to pass around the oils as we're talking about them so that you can start to meet them, right? Remember how I talked about meeting the plant helps you relate and associate with them. I'm passing around 2, even though they're different. So holy basil, right? This is the basil that we met today. I don't think we have any up here, but you know what it is. You've met it a lot now. So I'm going to pass around the essential oil, and you're just going to hold it underneath the nose and kind of like waft back and forth and inhale. Now I'm also going to be passing around basil. So this is, the typical basil that we use for culinary, but we also use it as essential oil. And I want you to smell it and kind of like note the difference, okay? So we'll start over here. There you go. And please don't touch the dropper with your face. So we can keep it sanitary. And you want to do that all the time with your oils at home too, because it's really important that you're keeping that area sanitized. Okay, so Tulsi, again, one of our most varied herbs, that especially as an adaptogen. Remember I mentioned that term earlier, adapting to stress. So when you think about Tulsi as an essential oil and as an herb, it's going to be great for those things. And so you will see that I did that same format for you. So the common name again is Tulsi or holy basil, and the Latin name Ocimum sanctum, or we have another form. Sometimes when it comes to essential oils, we'll have two forms we use, but it's important again to buy the correct Latin name. But when it comes to, you're not using it for most of you aren't going to be growing your own essential oils. You're going to be purchasing them, right? But so it's good to make sure you're getting the right Latin name. Okay, scent. So I put on here a scent. So when we can use essential oils as a single oil, and I'm on page 7. We can use essential oils as one oil to create that one quality and that aroma, but a lot of times we'll combine them together, again, that synergizing form. And so you can say, okay, I want something sweet, maybe I want something spicy, maybe I want something floral. It's just like when we're creating something, a recipe, right? So that's why I put that scent on here, so you can kind of smell. So when the holy basil is being passed around, I want you to see, like, do I smell that? Do I smell that sweetness, that herbalness, right? And what's the difference between that and the regular basil? To me, it's like a little bit spicier, the regular basil. Then I put the main chemical constituents here for you. So when it comes to a plant as an essential oil, it has specific constituents, and as an herb too, that give it the therapeutic property. Okay, so if we're looking, this is kind of like way into the science aspect, but if we were looking at, say, 3 plants that had the same constituent, they would have a similar property. Does that make sense? So if you're getting like really deep down into studying aromatherapy, you're like, okay, I know that XXX, like maybe that's like mandarin orange and wild orange and lemon and lime, they all have a similar constituent, that then I know that they can have a similar property. Does that make sense? And then we have our properties. So let's talk about holy basil and its properties. So it's an analgesic. Do you remember what I talked about with herbs, how that helps with pain? Pain can be an analgesic and an anodyne, which also helps with pain. So we learned about our herbs that help with pain, right? So we had Skullcap and Valerian. Those were our 2 main ones that we talked about for pain. But also remember St. John's wort, we also talked about as a way for the nervous system. So what did you notice? Any particular like things you felt or any smells when you were smelling these? Anything particular?
The regular basil seems to be sweeter smelling.
The sweeter smelling. Oh, so a little bit like sweeter. Stronger. Anything else? Any memories that came up when you smelled anything, like, oh wow, this smells like pasta, or something like that? Yeah, right. So yeah, it's, and sometimes you won't have something come up, but it's interesting if you're trying. A lot of times we'll use essential oils on that emotional level to kind of break through a blockage. So if we're trying to work through like something relaxing, or with sleep or some PTSD, those essential oils can create that level for us to go in. So again, the holy basil, so it's an analgesic and antidepressant. So we use the herb and the essential oil for the same property, right? It makes sense. So sometimes you will have this really great overlap. So you're like, okay, great, I don't have to learn like everything all over again. So it will really help in making it with a blend, like a diffuser blend, and spraying it in your environment, whether you could just put it in your car, or you could spray it like in your house, or you could, anywhere you want. If you're wanting to change that environment, a spray is really easy to do, and we're gonna make that. It's also an antispasmodic, so again, you could see that overlap. So you could use it topically, Well, a lot of times I'll use the Basil family for headaches. It's really good for muscle tension, especially at the occipital region and the shoulders, combining in that carrier oil, because you don't usually think, you know, like I'm not gonna like put pesto like on my shoulders, right? But using the essential oils, it has a very different property. It's very strong. It's almost like menthol, okay? So it will really get in there and help to loosen up the muscles. It's also great in a headache blend. You can use it on the temples. Anything you put on your face, you always want to be aware of your eye area, right? Not too close to the eyes, and it could be really strong. So if you're putting it on the temples, I always recommend, you know, carrier oil, of course, not neat, but away from the eye zone. We also use it as an expectorant. So a lot of these oils and the herbs that we saw earlier, we didn't talk a lot about them, but they can be used, especially in a diffuser, as a way to help us breathe. And you could think about basil as very like, opens up the system, right? And so we can use them in a diffuser. So a diffuser, this is my little like travel one. So a diffuser has a empty like area. Oh, it's still on. It has an area where you put the water, and then you'll add the essential oils to that, and then it diffuses them into the air, into your environment. So you can have that kind of like running all the time, or you can make one that you can travel with in this way, okay? So what it does, it's diffusing right into the environment, into the molecules, into the air. And it's also a nervine. So again, we're using it to relax the nervous system. So in that sympathetic state that I mentioned earlier, that fight or flight state, the sympathetic nervous system is running from the bear, right? Trying to get out of the fear behind us. Nervines move us into that state of relaxation, digesting, and resting. Okay, so anything where, whenever you see that word, you can think, I'm just gonna take a deep breath and I'm gonna be able to relax. Okay, and then on the next page here, number 8. So this is the uses. I put a usage section here. So we can use it again for the body. We can use it, like I mentioned, headaches and migraines. It's also good for pain relief, like topically. So in a good carrier oil. And then, so all of the essential oils are really good for the emotional, mental aspect, because it's going straight to the brain through the limbic system. And so Tulsi is really good for that overthinking mind. Remember how I talked about OCD with passive passion flower and St. John's wort? So you could make that tea, and then you could make using a Tulsi spray to really help you to focus. And that would, in a good way, not like an OCD way, but not that that's a bad way, but you know what I mean. And so it will help strengthen that mind and help you to really focus and help them to open up the passageways to the brain, increase circulation. It's also, remember how I talked about it being a very sacred plant in India? We use Tulsi for ceremonies, so you can use it with whatever type of, you know, whatever you connect to in the religious or faithful or spiritual way. It will help you connect to that divine spirit, because it helps you to really get in and connect to that oneness of the universe. And so we can use it as a ceremonial use, whether that's releasing things that are no longer serving us, or having some kind of environment where we're doing some kind of ceremony. We used to do, when we had the boot camps where people would stay over the weekend, we would do a big ceremony at the end with a fire pit, and we would all write down things that we don't want to have in our life anymore, whether that's stress or pain or a lack of sleep, whatever it was, we would burn it. So this is a great thing that you can do for the Tulsi. It can help that ceremony to take place. And the next part, so I wrote down, or I put in your handbook, all of the things that essential oils blend with. So you can have a single oil, ding, or you could pick 2 other ones that they blend with. Okay, so here you're like, okay, well, what do I want to try, right? So here I put ideas for you, and we're going to make some blends today where you're going to be able to experiment with that. Of course, some things don't blend well with others, right? So you want to have that experiment. And also, essential oils are very strong, and they have different levels of notes. So they have like a high note, which is something that you smell like very highly in the aroma, and they have a base note. So what that means is when you have a base note, it's like grounding in your formula. So it's going to be that thing that holds the formula together. The high note is something you're going to smell first. So when you first smell it, that's that first like uplifting aroma, and the base note stays there. Does that make sense? And so when we're making a formula, combining, this is a little bit like more advanced on the aromatherapy side, but I'm just explaining how you do the blending. when you're making those blends, you want to pick things that will last long, and then also the things that are going to work together to smell first. Does that make sense? And so we're going to be doing that today. And then also I put some key words in here. So when we're talking about the usages, this is great. So clear, activate, and invigorate. We want to have a clear mind. We want to activate the system so that we can decrease stress. We want to invigorate the body. So when you're thinking about those three things, again, those three words, these are great ones for you to associate with, okay? Now, we're going to be making a essential oil spray is our first thing we're going to make today. And this one, so let's just look at what's in here and what I want you guys to think about what it's going to be used for. Okay, we're going to be Tulsi. What do we think we want to use that for? Stress. Exactly. And then lemon. What do we think we want to use lemon for? Energy, right? Uplifting aroma. And let's pass these some around here. Here's the lemon. Yeah, lemon is very refreshing, right? It's cleanses the environment, so it helps to uplift things around us. Lavender, what do you think we'd use lavender for? Calming, exactly, so you guys are pros. Orange, what about orange? What do you think with orange? Energy, still uplifting, right? It's a little bit different than lemon, it's more sweeter, right? So it's gonna have that sweet quality to it. So we're not learning about all these today, but this is a great blend that I thought you guys would have fun making. So, we are going to take, so when you're making your blends in water, you want to use distilled water, okay? And so I'm going to pass it around, and we're going to be using it in this bottle. This is going to be your spray bottle. And what I suggest is to pour it into your cup. Because it's a small, we do have funnels, but first let's make it into here, okay? Or here. So this is a 2-ounce bottle. You can buy bottles in all different sizes, okay? So this is a 2-ounce, there's 1 ounce. I like the 2-ounce ones because they last longer. And you can reuse these, of course, right? Like we want to reuse and save the planet as much as we can. Always use glass. If I didn't stress that or mention it before, especially with essential oils, because it's an essential oil, it will degrade plastic. So, you know, this part is going to degrade over time, but if this was in a plastic container, not only is it going to degrade the container, but leach things from the chemicals they use to make plastic into your medicine. Not good. So that is that part. Okay, so we're going to take distilled water, and we're going to use 2 ounces. So we're going to pour 2 ounces on our cup here. You can see there's a 2-ounce line. And I know these are not glass, but I thought these would be easy for you. We will recycle them. So you're going to pour distilled water here into your 2-ounce, and then we will pass around the little funnels. And these are super easy to get on like Amazon or wherever, a local store. They're come in a variety of sizes, and you want to make sure you get nice small ones to fit into your small jars. Okay. There's those, probably not this big one. Yeah, so then if you have a bigger bottle, like a 4-ounce bottle, then you could have this bigger size here. Okay, so let's start first. So we're gonna have another water bottle we can use. Pass it on this side. And 2 ounces of water into your cup. Let's start with that phase first. So you can do this same process with any essential oils. You can take the 2-ounce bottle, you can take the cup, you can add your water, then we'll pour, because it is plastic, and we want to put the essential oils into the place we're using them. So we're gonna add the essential oils once it's in here, right? That way they stay in the place we want to use them. Does that make sense? I don't want to put them into this cup, one, because it's plastic, but also because we're mixing oil and water together, it's gonna stay onto the other container. But if we put our water and oils in here, they're gonna stay in here. Make sense? Okay, so everybody's got their 2 ounces. Then we're gonna start to mix. So I'm gonna pass around the Tulsi, and the lemon's going around, and the lavender, and the wild orange. Okay, so we'll do, you already have one on this side, I think we'll do 2 on that side.
Oh, and let me get the lemon.
Okay, so you're going to, then once you have your water into here, you're going to take your funnel, You're gonna put your funnel on top of your container. I have one that doesn't fit, but that's okay. Then you're gonna pour your water in. Okay, so that's your next step. Once you get that in, then you're going to add your drops of oil into the container. Not with the funnel, you're just gonna need to add them. And let me demonstrate that a little. So if you hold the essential oil at a 45-degree angle, the drops will come out. Different essential oils come out at a different speed. So just be aware as you're starting to turn the bottle, it might come out really fast. Ding, 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 you know, like a slot machine. So you want to do it slowly. Don't like dump it over right away. Does that make sense?
Water first, Dr. LuLu?
Water first into your container. Yeah. All right, so this essential oil spray, this Tulsi de-stressing spray, so we have the lavender, we have the Tulsi, we have the lemon and the orange. It's gonna help us to de-stress, but also uplift us, right? Because we're talking about anxiety and depression. So we wanna help somebody to calm us, but also to uplift us. So it's a great combo spray. If you're waiting for stuff to come around, you can make your label. And so you can make your label for your jar that says de-stress spray, and then the date. Again, you always want to date stuff. There's lots of ways to get fancy.
Lavender and Tulsi.
There's more lavender. I have another lavender here. Yeah. No, just one of the Tulsi, but there's another lavender. I have two. There's another orange too. People need orange? No. Okay. Great. Tulsi. I know I only have one of those. That's okay. It's okay. We have towels. Okay. So you're gonna mix that up. Shake it up so the oil and the water can combine. Make your label, and then we can spray in our environment. So I usually recommend like spraying above the head, so that it goes, you know, around you, or you could spray it around you and then kind of like walk into it. So that way it's activating your limbic system. How does it? You can spray it on your skin. How does it smell? Does it smell good? Relaxing, like it? So that was pretty easy to make, right? Really straightforward. And I picked oils today that are easy to purchase and also inexpensive. Essential oils have a wide range of expense. So like rose is very, very expensive. Peppermint is very cheap because you can see how much peppermint we have in the garden. It's easy to grow, easy to harvest, easy to make the oil. So I tried to pick ones for you learning about today that would be in a range of expense, so to speak. So you can make them easily for your friends. So you can, when you're buying one bottle, you know, say it was like $20 or something like that, it's gonna last you for a while. You're not gonna use all of it in one moment.
Which one? Sorry.
Okay, is everybody good to move on? Or do you need a little bit more time? I think we're still, is everybody still making stuff?
We are, but it's the volunteers.
Okay. All right. So I also put on here a Tulsi uplifting oil. So this is the same formula that you can use for making all of the oils in the roll-ons. We're not going to make the Tulsi one, but so the roll-ons are here, and we're going to learn how to make those in just a minute. So the Tulsi, you would take 2 drops, only 2 drops, right, into 1 tablespoon of oil. So that would be, say like for instance, you were going to, you wanted to put it on as a massage oil, or if you wanted to use some for your, behind your neck or on your shoulders. So 2 drops, 1 tablespoon of oil. So I like to use usually like a little small metal bowl, you know, something like this when I'm gonna make it. Because again, plastic is not the best, so glass or metal. So you would take 1 tablespoon of the carrier oil and 2 drops, mix it with a, I'm gonna show you some other little tools here. So you can easily get these little glass stirrers. These are great because you don't want things like to use wood when it comes to oil and essential oils. So you want to use something that's glass or metal. So I like these glass stirrers, and also these are little glass droppers, so you can use these as well. Also, these are really easy to use and purchase. So glass, you know, beakers. So these are easy to wash out, and they won't stain, and they're not going to coat your thing. So if you're using, don't use a plastic bowl, use a metal bowl or use glass, okay? Oh, it smells so good in here. I can smell the Tulsi. Very uplifting. Perfect for our after snack break. So we stay awake. Okay, so let's move on and talk about bergamot. So I think there is still one circulating out there.
Yes, you need it.
And I'm gonna pass around on this side over here. You can start in the one over there. So what I'd like you to do is again take off the cap and waft it underneath your nose and inhale. So bergamot has a very different smell. You might know from Earl Grey tea, we use it for that. So it has this kind of like citrusy aroma, but it's very different as far, and you know, it's not, we also use it a lot for its calming effects as opposed to its uplifting aroma. We do it that way too, but let's talk about it. So Citrus bergamia, or bergamia is its Latin name, and it's aromatic description, so it's slightly floral, so it does have that little bit of a floral aroma, so you can think about, you could combine it with other oils that were slightly floral or add it to something where you want to have that floral scent. And you know, you're just learning the basics right now. You're not like going to be perfumers overnight, right? Like this is like a scientist, so you're just going to have fun and experiment, but this gets you the groundwork. It's citrusy, so we have the lemon, the mandarin orange, tangerine, grapefruit. I can pass around some of those other ones too, lime. So you can kind of start to see some of the other aromas. Grapefruit. So you can see the differences, and you will kind of have smell overload. And you can do coffee beans are a great in-betweener. So if you want to try to clear the palate, or not the palate, but the senses, you can, if you're smelling a lot of aromas at once, smell one, take a break, and then smell some coffee, and it will change the limbic brain pattern. Okay, and so the bergamot again smells fresh, lemony, orangey, citrusy, so that uplifting quality. So it helps us to transfer love back to ourselves. So it's a really great one to use if you're in that place of depression where you're having a lot of selflessness, or you're talking bad about yourself. You don't have that self-love, degrading yourself. And not having that self-love. Bergamot is really great for uplifting us out of that place. It also helps us to uplift the spirit, right? So when we're having a change in our time, where we're moving from, say you're really stuck, like, oh, I just really can't, I'm so stuck, I just can't move to that next vision of my life or that next place. Bergamot really helps us to do that, to help us to move out of a place of depression or loss. It helps us to uplift. It's a natural antidepressant. So when we're thinking about bergamot, that's your word, your go-to word, antidepressant, okay? It helps to promote relaxation and confidence because of that uplifting spirit. And so when you're thinking about combining your essential oils into a formula, think about that. Like, okay, I want something that's going to be the same quality. So, as I gave you these 5 today, and there's more passing around, you can go back and look like, okay, I'm really looking for something that is going to, all the relaxing ones, right? So you want to pick out those words together. Bergamot also really helps to stimulate the digestive system. Probably one of the reasons why it was first used for Earl Grey tea, as to help the digestive system. And it's good for muscle tension and headache. So you can combine it with Tulsi, the one we just talked about, remember? And so it's a great formula to help with muscle tension and de-stress and calm the body. It helps us to process and release emotional anguish. So you can see kind of there's a difference with essential oils. They work a lot on the emotional body. So the herbs will do that as well, the plant medicine, but essential oils really get into that emotional piece, which is why I like using them together. It's like the herbs are more that physical, and the aromatherapy is that kind of emotional aspect. So then we're working on both sides of the body together, because if we want to do real healing, we can't just work on one, right? We have to work on from that holistic perspective. So it can help us process the releasing emotional anguish, which I think a lot, especially during this time as we're moving out of the pandemic, there's been a lot of stress on the planet, and helping us move forward in a way that we feel more confident and loving. It also helps us to have a place of empowerment. So a lot of these citrus essential oils will have that. You can think of like the sun. That's how I always remember when I'm like a lemon, right? It's got this beautiful yellow color. It's this power of the sun. So it's going to help us when we use it in a formula for empowerment. It helps balance the feeling of self-judgment. That's that piece I was talking about there, that moving into a place of self-acceptance, self-love. And it promotes relaxation. So that's our key here with anxiety and depression, to create self-love, create a place of relaxation. And it's also dun, 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 for the immune system, right? So it's going to help with any of the citrus family. Orange, grapefruit, lemon, lime, bergamot are all going to help immunity kill viruses and bacteria. Okay, so if you're making an immune spray specifically, like, you know, ones that we have, the hand sanitizers and the ones in the porta potties have orange in them. They're really helping. And also some of the other, the ancient herbs like cinnamon and nutmeg and cloves, those are also really antiviral. Okay, I made an anti-stress synergy oil for you here, and we're gonna make that next, okay? So, we are going to take this container here, and what did I do with the little thingies? Let me find them.
The little plastic.
Yeah, the little dropper things. What kind of them? I never had them at one time. Okay, well we'll find them.
Okay.
Oh, they ended. No. Well, we'll find them. I know where there were more. Anyway, we can start doing that, and we can look for them. There's more in the back. Okay, so we are going to have to take our oil, and I believe it's 1 ounce, but actually I think it's a little less. So we're going to take our cup, and you can kind of get the water out of it, or you can use another one. Let's have you use the one next to you. Let's be dry it. We don't have water mixed in. So we'll take 1 ounce of the oil. So we'll pass around the oil. Oh, you can? Yay! Okay. And we have the other. There should be one more piece. Is there another piece? Another bag? They have 2 pieces. Oh, they have the little white piece, other white piece. Okay, so this is our jojoba oil. So I'm going to put it in a, let's see, we need.
Oh, I thought she said water. No, oil.
Okay, we're gonna do that. That's probably plenty. We'll just pour it back in if we have extra. All right, so here's our jojoba oil. I'd like you to take 1 ounce of that oil and put it into your cup. And then if we need more, we can bring around more. Okay, can we find the little thingies?
She's like, one is looking.
Okay. We have more if we need them. Okay. Then you're gonna take 1 of these out of the bag. And if you don't mind just using maybe you could would you put on some gloves, Tamlin, and then just pass them out so we don't put our stuff into the bag. Okay, so you're gonna take your oil, once you have it into there, and does everybody still have a funnel on theirs?
It doesn't have enough, I got a little bit.
You said 1 ounce, correct?
Yes, 1 ounce. And I think you're gonna need the tiny funnel, so we'll probably have to take turns here. Let's see if this one fits. Now you can see the importance of having a little tiny funnel. Okay, this one works, and that one does not. So you have to share the funnel. Yeah, so you can go ahead and I would pour it in just a little bit under, don't fill it all the way up to the rim, okay? Because we want to put the essential oils in. So let's leave a little bit of space. Okay, there we go. Okay, so you're gonna pour that carrier oil into your jar, and you might need to wait to get the funnel comes around. And if you might have more that fits into your container, that's okay. We'll just put it back into the jar. Okay, so once you get that, then let me get the oil. So we're gonna use lavender, which is relaxing. I think that's in the back. Lavender, and then we have our bergamot and ylang ylang. We can pass this one around. Lavender. And I think I have another ylang ylang. Okay, here's another ylang ylang for this side over there. Okay, so you're going to add, once you have that oil into your roll-on, you're gonna put 4 drops of lavender into your glass, not in the plastic, 2 drops of bergamot, and 1 drop of ylang ylang.
Ready for this? I think so.
Oh yes, and then I'm gonna show you how to do the next, put the thing on. Let's see. I know, it's
Pass those out.
okay, great. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, you can see, like, you don't need much essential oils, right? 1 drop. They're very strong. I'm gonna show you how to put them together.
I'll bring the lavender up.
Oh, it's starting to smell so good in here.
Can we use this small?
It doesn't fit.
Okay.
There's only one, and we have to wait. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, so once you have your oils in there, this piece here, it goes on next. It's the larger plastic piece, and the skinny part goes in. So you're gonna put the skinny part in, and then so it like snaps in there. Then you're gonna take your round ball, and you're gonna put the round ball and snap it in the top. Okay, and then you're gonna put your top on, and then shake it up. Okay. Okay, we'll wait a few minutes while everybody's getting their supplies.
First and then, or does it matter?
It's better to put all the oil into here first and then put the essential oils in here. Yes. But if you didn't do it that way, it's okay. No worries. Next time. You're gonna have lots of time to experiment.
Yeah, mine didn't fit.
Didn't fit, right?
No, I think this is a half. This is less than. I think it's like a half. Yeah, I just didn't. We don't have a less measurement on the container, so I just did 1. Yeah, we will just pour them back into the container. Yeah. Okay, while everybody's still making, so I'm going to talk about the usage of it. So roll-ons are really great because they're a little bit different than our diffusers, right? Diffusers go into our environment through the limbic system, but when we use roll-ons, we're using them on pressure points to activate things really quickly through our skin, because our skin is our largest organ, so it can go straight into the system. So our pressure points, we have our wrists, the bottoms of our feet, kidney 1, which is like at the bottom point of your foot. Right here is kidney 1, okay? And so you can put them there. That's very grounding. Also, the other pressure point is the back of the head. So right at the occiput region here and all along. Okay, so those are your pressure points.
You need the
No, I poured it.
So if you're looking to activate the system really quickly, using those pressure points, the qualities that you're looking for in the aromatherapy will go right into the system. And they're really easy to travel with. It's a different way. I like using a combination because this is going to go away quickly, right? Because it's in the air around you, it's diffused. But when we're using a roll-on, we can travel with it or use it on our skin, and we can continue to smell it. Right? Okay, I'm de-stressing. I want to calm down. I'm going to use more of my roll-on and just roll it on my points, and then smell it. Take some nice deep breaths. Put it on my palms. Inhale, so that way it can kind of calm down. And you don't always have the environment where you can use a diffuser, right? Like maybe you're, I don't know, at the movie theater, at a restaurant. Maybe not the like best environment, right? Yeah. But you can use this anywhere, right? So, and same with tinctures, you can't always access them, but this is something really easy. It's also really easy to travel with in the airport if you're traveling, or in the car, anything like that. So those are our 2 main forms for using aromatherapy in the way that we can easily access our system. 1 for a aromatic diffuser, and 2 for a roll-on, okay? Is everybody good? Everybody ready to move on? You're still making stuff, I think. Yeah, it's okay.
We need the bergamot.
Are we out of bergamot?
We're out?
Well, we don't have it.
It's not in play.
I think we're all using it.
It's floating around.
There's 1. There's 2. Yay!
How do you put the ball into?
Oh yes, let me show you again, Nara. Okay, so yeah, you have the big plastic part, this piece, and you put that in first with the skinny end, and then you take the ball and you snap the ball in. Okay, then you take your black top, screw it in, and then shake it up.
Okay.
and then you can apply to your pressure points. So try that after you get your blend made. Do it on your palm, your wrist is the easiest, and then, or you can do it in your palms and take some nice deep breaths in. 2 to 3 big breaths in to really help the system to calm down. Okay. Mellow out, yes, mellow yellow. Okay, so again, when you're thinking about bergamot, what are the things we want to remember? It's for de-stressing and uplifting, helping a lot with self-love and self-acceptance. Okay, now we're gonna move into lavender, and you guys have already been smelling a lot of lavender. I'm gonna pass around the plant from our beautiful garden so that you can get a scent. And don't forget to label your stuff, label your things so you know what you made. Okay, so lavender essential oil, when it comes to the lavender plant, we have many different varieties. So a lot of times you'll see it as just Lavandula SPP, which means species. But we specifically for aromatherapy, we'll use the officinalis or the angustifolia. So those are the main varieties that we use. But a lot of times when you buy it at the store, they'll have a combination of the different ones. Like French lavender, English lavender combined together. Okay, I'm on page 10. And I'm just gonna continue on, you can continue making, okay? So lavender, this is probably the most known essential oil. People have heard of it. It's been well studied and well used. And it's very floral, very sweet. If it's still being passed around, you can smell it by yourself if you're not overloaded at the moment with smells. It's very versatile. You know, I think we use lavender oil a lot for one thing, just to relax. But it's very versatile. We can use it in different formulas. It can be used a lot for emotional balancing, right? The theme for today helps with stress. It helps with panic attacks. So if you're having like a lot of anxiety and panic attacks, it can also help with irritability and anger, which when you're in that chronic stress state is very common. It's also balancing, relaxing, emotionally calming, and it's also an antibacterial. So a lot of our oils and plants have a lot of antibacterial and immune boosting qualities. So lavender is a different one that you can add in for your, not only for in a roll-on, but as a spray if you're wanting to clean up the environment around you. Like when I travel, like especially on an airplane, I clean every surface around me, and I put like essential oils on the things above me on the plane where the air comes out, you know. And so this lavender is great because people at least know that smell, and they're always like, "Ooh, it smells so good back there." I'm like, "Yep, that's right." Doesn't smell like 10,000 other people that have been in the plane. But you can also use it in your car. You can have there are diffusers like the one I showed you. This is a little remote one, and they have travel diffusers too that you can plug into your car. So that if you're like, you know, you're traveling a lot in your car, like some people have a lot of anxiety when they're driving, especially on the 26. So, you know, if you have anxiety with driving, or maybe people in your car, if you're traveling, it's great to have a little diffuser, but you could also have your handy dandy spray in your car that you could spray in your environment. So I do that a lot when I'm traveling. So we can add, again, using lavender. So I'd like you to think of lavender for two things: relaxing and then sleep. Okay, so that's the best thing. So we're talking about, again, if you're writing down your 2 to 3 keywords, calm and sleep. And you can put, remember I showed you on the bottom of your feet, you can put it on the bottom of your feet before bed. You can do it neat, like with the oil, or you could make a roll-on. These are really inexpensive to buy, so you can make a bunch of different ones yourself. Like this is gonna be my one for sleep, this is one for calming, or you could make a roll, you know, a combo like we just did. It really helps to increase mental activity. So this is really interesting, right? Like we just talked about, this is a calming. How could it do that? So when we're in a place of calm and peace, it allows our brain and nervous system to engage in a much better way. So it actually increases mental activity and allows us to focus with clarity. And we, of course, can use it as a natural perfume. Many people like the way lavender smells, and it's great for skin issues and, you know, like bug bites, bee stings, scrapes, anything like that. You can just put the lavender straight on. I use it, I know I said always use it neat, but I actually will use lavender because it's very safe straight sometimes if I have something I need to like immediately help with, because it will, like, especially a burn, you know, I keep it in I have like a little toolbox of oils in my kitchen, and if I'm cooking, that's when I always pull out because I'm kind of dangerous when it comes to cooking. I burn myself a lot, and so I always have that around. Okay, and then I put a great anxiety remedy here for you to make. We're not gonna make it right now, but this is one. If we have time, we'll make some more. So chamomile and lavender. Let me see if I have the chamomile. I think we actually have time to make another one today. So chamomile, did everybody remember what I showed you in the garden, the chamomile? Maybe. So chamomile is pretty common. It's a little white flower, very, very tiny, and it's used for relaxation. You might see it at the store, like chamomile tea for sleeping. Very, very common. It's easy to grow. It does take a lot of the plant to make medicine, but the essential oil smells very different. So I'm going to just pass it around and let you guys smell it. Let me see, what do you think? So I think we have time to make this today. And so let's do, you can do two things since we have the other things at the stations. You can either make a roll-on or a spray, whichever you feel like you would like to make more of, like maybe we just did both, but you can do either one. So let's do, does anybody have a preference of what they're gonna do, an oil or a spray? One oil. Anybody?
I have oil already.
Okay, well anyway, you can do either one. I just was wondering to tell you what to do. Okay, so we're gonna take lavender. So let's do the oil since that way we can all just do the same thing. So you still have the oil on your desk. So we're gonna do the same thing we just did. And we have lavender, 2 things of lavender, and then we have the 1 chamomile. Okay, so we'll do the same process we just did. Lavender. What do you think about the way the chamomile smells? As it's going around there, it's still passing around, I think. So this is a natural anxiety remedy.
We'll pass this around. Yeah.
So what I'd like you to write on your container or your label is anti-anxiety, right? This is one that you can use anytime you're feeling you need some peace and calming. Whether that's going to bed, or maybe you have a stressful job, or maybe anything. This is going to help you to relax. So chamomile has a soothing and relaxing effect, makes you feel at ease. How do you like the way it smells? Does it smell like the flower out in the garden? It's very different aroma. Yeah. So you can see when you would be combining chamomile with things that you would not probably want that aroma to be overpowering, right? You want it to be blended with other stuff. So you're going to use 5 drops of chamomile and 5 drops of lavender. And this is going to be added to a hot bath, but we're just going to do it as a roll-on and with the same formula, okay? You could put this in a bath if you want to. Okay, and again, so we're making this remedy to decrease anxiety. Okay, so I'll let everybody kind of get through that. And what's great about chamomile is it's wonderful for digestive anxiety. So if you have a lot of upset that's specifically stomach related when it comes to stress, this is a really good one, and you can even roll it onto your stomach in a clockwise direction, and it will help to reduce like cramping, bloating, all of that, okay? So that's a really good one for this. I really like using it for that. Okay, super. All right, I'm gonna start moving on a little bit. I think you guys are wrapping up now with that. Okay, so that's our lavender. So you can see we had our holy basil helping us to de-stress, but the holy basil comes from that place of adaptogenic, helping us to deal with stress, right? Then we have our bergamot, uplifting, and now we have our lavender, really calming, right? So you can see how these essential oils, even though they're all nervines, have a different quality and a very different smell.
Anybody need lavender?
You need more containers? That's good. We're good. Okay. Okay, now I'm gonna get the next one is frankincense. So I'm gonna get this one started around. And I'll take these ones. Frankincense.
Frankincense.
Frankincense. So you might have heard of frankincense, right? Frankincense. Right. Yes, very holiday. Frankincense. So we have many oils that are ancient oils that have been around for a really, really, really long time. Frankincense and myrrh are two of those, and sandalwood. Some oils, I didn't really talk about this as much with herbs either, but some things have been over-harvested, overused, and are endangered. Sandalwood is one of those essential oils. Frankincense is not yet, so let's hopefully keep that in the non-endangered species. We use the resin part of the frankincense and myrrh. Both are like these little, when you see a picture of them, they are these like little like rocks almost. They look like pieces of resin, and that's where we get the essential oil from. Sandalwood comes from the wood. So you can see if we use like a wood of a tree, it's gonna totally kill the tree a lot faster than like a petal. So that's one of the reasons why sandalwood is becoming extinct or endangered. Okay, our next one is frankincense. So this is Boswellia cartereri, and the frankincense can also be used as an internal oil from herbal medicine. Boswellia is highly regarded as an anti-inflammatory plant. We're not going over that today, but we will when we talk about our herbs for inflammation. So if you're coming to that one, we'll be talking about it then. But yeah, I love frankincense because when we're talking about the qualities, it's very woodsy, right? So it'll bring that woody note into a formula. It's fruity, slightly spicy, balsamic, woody, but fresh. So, you know, it's not like pine or eucalyptus where you're like, woo, it's got the pine all and really opens up the breathing. But frankincense does have that woody aroma. So it's a common essential oil used in aromatherapy because we've used it for many, 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 many thousands of years. And it's really great for inflammation topically and internally as an herb. It's used to decrease stress and anxiety. So those are the things I want you to remember about frankincense is anxiety and inflammation. Those are your two words there. And it also does boost immunity. So of course you can see that a lot of the herbs that I picked and essential oils for us to learn about would have that immunity component because it's really important right now for people to be boosting their immunity. It's also known as the oil of truth. That's probably why it's such an ancient oil, and it would help, they would use it in ceremonies to help like release or reveal false truths. It's very calming, so that's that sense of peace and calming, helping to decrease anxiety. Has it been passed around? Has everybody got to smell or been able to smell the frankincense? Any comments about the way it smells?
Strong.
Woodsy. Strong. It's very strong, right? When I think of frankincense, when I'm making a blend, I always want to use a small amount because it will really overpower very easily. And you're like, made this blend, and you're like, oh, that smells gross. You know, then I have to like make a whole new one. So you know, you want to use. I always recommend if you're gonna do a combo, make the combo, make it small amounts of drops in your ratio. Let's say you do like 1 drop, 2 drops, 3 drops. Don't make a big amount because if you don't like it, you can switch it up, right? You can always add another drop, but you can't take away a drop, right? And also it changes. Remember I mentioned the base note and the top note. Your aroma will change over time. So, you know, make it, smell it, maybe let it sit out for a few minutes and like, okay, then come back and smell it and see if it's changed or if you notice a different aroma. Okay, so benefits. So it immediately induces a feeling of satisfaction and relaxation. So it will immediately bring that sense of peace and calming. So again, frankincense is all about calm. And it supports a healthy immune system. So a great one you could bring in with some of our other immune supporting citrus family. So because the frankincense does have that citrus aroma, so you could bring in the lemon or the bergamot or the orange, any of those. I like the frankincense and orange combo. It's really good together. And it promotes cellular health. So remember I talked about our skin as our biggest organ. And so when we use essential oils topically in a massage oil or something, or a roll-on, the integrity of our skin is very affected. And frankincense is widely known for its use for skin. So in skin formulas for wrinkles and things like that. So I like to use it in a oil to help my skin look great and beautiful. So it really will help promote the integrity of your skin. So I put a little formula here for you, frankincense anti-anxiety. So again, we're on that anxiety focused calming. So this uses frankincense, lavender, ylang ylang, and bergamot. So we're not gonna make this one, but this would be another oil that you could make in the ones I've given you. And ylang ylang is a little bit, it's a flower, and that was the one that was, did everybody get to smell that one? We used it. It's very floral. You don't wanna use it in large amounts. And it's more on the expensive side because it comes, they have to use the petals. So when you're buying it, that one is costs a little bit more, but not an exorbitant amount. And you can see the formula here, and you can change up the ratios when you're experimenting yourself. Okay, and again, you can apply, after you make this anti-anxiety formula, you can apply it to your temples, right? Remember I mentioned applying here for helping to relax. I mentioned, you know, traveling. It's a great one to keep if you have a lot of anxiety traveling or working, or maybe you're in a stressful situation with your kids, you know, and you want to be like, okay, I don't want to have a meltdown in front of my kids right now. I think I'll just use some of this anxiety formula, you know, so yeah, whatever in your meltdown stage, you know, that's a great one to keep around. And it will help you to relax. Okay. Our next one is orange or wild orange, and this one was being passed around, but let's pass it around again. I think there might be another one out there in the midst. Oh, this was, we're out. Okay, so this one will have to have a single. Oh, it smells so good.
So good.
So good. I love orange. Okay, so what do you think of when you think of orange? What is the first thought that comes to your mind? Healthiness, citrus, vitamin C, anything? Fruit salad, right? Yeah. So you know we use orange a lot. We can use it herbally as a plant. We use it in you can buy the dried orange peel. Use it in tea blends. We don't use a tincture of it. It still would be too intense. But as an essential oil, it's really great for uplifting and for immunity. And we're going to talk about that. So Citrus sinensis is the Latin name, and it's sweet. Of course, we have that like sweet orange aroma. And it is reminiscent of orange peels, but more concentrated, right? You can think they took that peel. They don't use the inside of the orange, they use the outside peel. So it's like really concentrated. And remember I talked about doing the patch skin test. This is one you definitely want to do a patch test if you have sensitivities. Usually the one that personally affects me the most is lime. I don't know why, but if I use lime like a lot, it will make me break out. So, you know, who knows? But you'll know when you do your patch test. Okay, orange has a mood lifting, energizing, and refreshing effect. So you can think about if you open an orange and then you go, you know how all those little droplets will go up into the air, and it immediately makes you feel good, and you feel like, oh, and you drink a glass of like orange juice in the morning. It's very reviving, revitalizing, refreshing. That's exactly what the essential oil does. The same thing. It's going to help uplift us in places of depression, helps us to bring up the mood. It also helps us to have a place of abundance. And when I think about, you know, there's lots of different things with essential oils, but when I think about abundance, when we're talking about essential oils, like when you look, you know, we have oranges all around us, like especially from Florida, right? And they easily grow, easily in the environment. And it's easy for us to go out and just pick an orange, right? So that's the abundance. When we're thinking about using an essential oil, and what do I mean by increasing abundance? Why would we want to do that, right? Well, we want to have things around us we're trying to accumulate more. It's not just about money. Maybe we're trying to increase more calmness in our life, or maybe we're trying to increase more friendships, you know, anything. So orange will help with that in a blend or by itself. It also helps stimulate humor, creativity, and vision. So it helps us to widen our perspective, again, when we're in a place of stuckness, right? So remember I talked about bergamot? The citrus family really helps open up, like you think, smelling that citrus family, it helps open our senses and our environment. Okay, so how can we use orange? So we can use it in a diffuser by itself, or we could use it in some other blends. We can add a drop to water. So again, remember I mentioned we can use some oils internally, and orange is one we can use. And I always recommend having like a big glass, not like this, you know, a big container, maybe like 36 ounces, and then 1 drop of water, because it'll go a long way, and it's shaking it up, because you know it's not going to mix that great. So again, make sure you're using a glass one so that you can make things mix. You can inhale it in your hands. So rubbing 1 drop on your hands in the carrier oil. Remember, 1 tablespoon of carrier oil to 1 to 2 drops of oil. Rub it in, and that's a lot, so you might not need a whole tablespoon. What I'll do a lot of times if I want to use something, these little tiny beakers are so cute, and you can just mix it in there and then like put a little lid on it and use it like 1 tablespoon, because you don't want to mix 1 tablespoon in your hand. That would be all over the place. Okay, and then you can use it in an all-purpose spray. So, you know, making your own hand sanitizer, putting it in your bathroom. You know how they made those funny, like stinky bathroom smells? You know what I'm talking about? The ones that were for like odor away or whatever it was. You can make your own. And orange is really great because it does help that diffuse stinky aromas. So if you have an area like, you know, your shoe closet or something, or the gym, anywhere you're exercising, it's great for reducing that stinky odor. Okay, so here I made a stress release oil formula for you so you could make this at home. And this one's got lavender, orange, clary sage, and bergamot. And I think I got out the clary sage for you all to smell. Why did I do it that way? Did it get passed around yet? Which one? The clary sage? Oh, it's right here. Right here. Yeah. Okay, so this one is very different. I definitely want you to smell this one. So clary sage, we use it a lot for relaxing, but it's a hormonal oil. For we use it for not only for women and men, because men have hormones too, but for that hormonal balance. So it's great for that. So you can see how it has kind of that relaxing feeling. So it's a really good essential oil to bring in for balancing. So lavender, orange, clary sage, and bergamot. This is a great formula for helping you to release stress, right? If you're in that place of chronic stress, it's a great one. And what's the difference between chronic stress and acute stress? So acute stress would be just in that moment, you meet the bear in the parking lot. Or 4th of July this week, or last week, my dad and I were doing an annual 5K, family 5K. We're running. My dad and I are off alone because he's older and I want to run with him. He's like, oh, go ahead, go off on your own. I was like, no, I'll stay with you. So my dad and I are running. We go around the corner and there's 2 bear. And he lives in Atlanta, so he doesn't see bear. And so he's like freaked out, probably because I'm with him. I'm like, Dad, it's going to be okay. So we like go, and we go off this other road trying to find a way down the mountain because we're like talks away. We're like at the top of the mountain and all alone. And so we go up to, it's a dead end road. So we're like, well, we can't get out. So then we go back. And we're trying to get out, and then the bears have now decided to come up the dead end road, and my dad's like totally freaking out. I was like, this is when I need the stress release oil right now. So anyway, we managed to get out fine. We back like totally bushwhacked down the mountain, so it was fine. But yeah, quite the adventure. But yeah, so that's an acute stress, right? That is an acute stress situation. But we're in your chronic stress. Chronic stress is accumulated. Right? So you have little things or big things that accumulate, and then you have this chronic stress reaction causing your adrenal glands to overwork all the time. So this stress release formula can be used in either way, chronic stress or acute stress. Okay, great. Okay, the next page is an essential oil chart for different emotional needs that I created for you to help you with blending. Okay, you know, we didn't go over all these today, but you'll see I put some there for grief and for fear, for exhaustion, fatigue, and burnout, for sadness. So as you're starting to become familiar with essential oils, I mean, there's a lot. You're welcome to come up. I brought some today. I mean, there's many, many, many different essential oils. As you're starting, if this is something that really, you know, like gets you excited to learn about, start with maybe your first 7, right? Your basics, peppermint, orange, lemon, lavender, just those ones you can start, and they're inexpensive to begin, and then adding on more layers, right? But this gives you a good kind of like framework. Like, okay, I'm gonna I need a lot of work with anxiety, or I need to decrease my anxiety. I'm gonna get these oils here and start playing with them, okay? So that should really help. And last one is anger management. If you know anybody that needs help with that, those are good oils there. I put some information here if you need help getting essential oils, just you can connect with me. You want to make sure you're getting them from a good source and not just buying them where they've been adulterated or they're a bad source. So connect with me if you need help about that or if you need a consultation. Okay, woo, we did it! So the last bit of today is where we're gonna take some time. I will answer questions. I'm here to help you with anything that you need. Also, if you want and need to do another tour or see you didn't get a full tour of the farm, we can do that while you're here today. I do ask that you help with your cleanup of your area, taking everything with you. And also, if you want to sign up for more workshops, please make sure that you do that. Tell me which one you want. I'll pass around the little sheet, right? So here is the sheet where if you guys are already in the system. So if you want to take all of them, write that, and then we'll put you in the category of that. And then if we have space, you can attend all of them. Okay? So just let me know if there's specific ones that you want to attend, and we'll pass that around.
And everybody gets to take a bouquet home, not the mason jar, but take the bouquet.
Yeah. Yes. You can take the flowers. These are all local flowers. And then also, I think Melissa's grabbing. We have another box for you too. So. Again, I really thank you all for being here today, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity to help you learn, and I hope you had just a wonderful time learning and experiencing this new way to help you.